Welcome home, Sydney. Preview of coming events.
This isn't a movie.
It will be.
This is a video game.
Who wants toast?
It's me, Mario.
So hot.
You need to stop this now.
Can't stop this.
Hello, I hate you. We've just been having a brilliant way to start off a live show, isn't it? Just been having a conversation before the start of this E3 Monday Movie Show special where I say 8 very weirdly, and I have to say 8 to unmute the mic so these reprimands who are on Skype with me can laugh at me.
I'm not laughing at you.
Yeah, so I'm joined by Dalek.
You'll have to reprobate us for being such a bunch of reprimands.
Yeah, well, Bouncy.
Hello there.
And for the first time on the Monday Movie Show, and I'm probably guessing he's never going to come back after this, legendary Jerry from Following the Nerd.
Yeah. Hello. Or Legend Jerry, or just Jerry for now, would make it easier for you.
You're a braver man than I, Gungadin.
Yeah, so brilliant. Like I said, brilliant way to start things off. This is an E3 special of the Monday Movie Show. We don't normally do video game stuff, and as a matter of fact, this is the first time in 4 years since the Monday Movie Show has launched that we've done anything other than films. There's been spin-off shows where we've talked about Ghibli films and specific topics, but nothing to do with video games. And E3 is a press conference that's held in America every single year, even though people are getting a bit sick of it now. There seems to be more and more comes out of it and more added to it. And this year, as a matter of fact, Bethesda and Square Enix has decided to join the usual bandits and have their own press conferences.
That's right.
There's also the first PC gaming conference at it as well.
Oh, was there a PC gaming conference? I didn't realise.
Yes, it was the last conference held, and it started at 2 a.m. our time.
Oh, fantastic.
And for 2 hours.
Oh, and what we get Gamescom. Yet very few announcements are made at Gamescom.
That's actually due to change. A lot of the games that were announced, they're all saying there's going to be a lot more details given at Gamescom. They seem to be spreading things out a bit more evenly this time around.
Yeah.
Also, the lack of content on their part, but anyway.
Also, before E3 actually fully kicked off, because it kicked off early this year on the Sunday, we had the Nintendo event that they decided to resurrect, where it was a Nintendo Championship to find pretty much the best Nintendo player out there who lives in America. If you watched it, it was on for 4 hours, and everybody there, from what I can gather, was from America. And nobody else exists in this world, or nobody else plays Nintendo stuff in this world apart from Americans. So, did anybody actually watch that stuff?
I caught bits of it.
It was painful. It was less painful than anything else that Nintendo have put out in previous years. It was just, like as you said, the fact that they used Best Buy stores to work out who's the best Nintendo gamers in the world. The people who shop in Best Buy are probably not going to be the best gamers in the world in the first place because they probably do all their shopping online. I would imagine, not knowing what Best Buy sell, but I'm assuming you can get what they sell online these days.
They're probably also going to eat DiGiorno pizza rolls and breathe through their mouth.
Yeah. So what they've got is Nintendo done a World Championships of people who shop at Best Buy, which is like over here, like Eurogamer this year, having the World Championship Mario Kart players as designated by people who shop at Lidl, which, it doesn't really have the same ring to it, does it?
I thought you were going to go all retro and say Game Station on us there.
No, I was going to say who were garnered from the Games Master Zoning Comet, but I thought that might be too obscure and retro.
Indeed. Isn't this lovely? Isn't this cosy, all of us talking E3 together?
It is. With that that 4-hour supposed extravaganza. They reeled out things like Super Mario Maker was the end event where they were playing custom levels in that. They played a soccer game, as they were constantly harking on about, a futuristic one, which turned out to be the new Metroid game on the 3DS. And they also did Splatoon, which I think probably was the best bit about that, even though the Mario Maker levels were very badly constructed. I think the Splatoon one is got that.
I can get down with that because I'm so happy to be back here. Many people don't know that it was me, Stuart, who gifted you with your true name, the Grumpy Ninja. Yeah. So it's just wonderful to be back on the movie show. I'm so happy I could paint the wall.
Nice.
That's it. Yeah. You see. You got it. You understood that I was talking about a child's innocent thing, and that there was no double meaning that could nudge us towards the explicit tag.
Yeah, yeah. But the annoying thing about the Splatoon stuff was the people who got to commentate on it. They had that DJ Wheat, and then he brought out his son, Mini Wheat. It was like watching shredded wheat, just comparing the show or something. It was badly constructed by Nintendo.
Well, the annoying thing about the Nintendo conference, full stop, is that it was so funny and self-aware and fun. And it showed that Nintendo really get it. So when they basically Nintendo, as they do from day to day, you can no longer even make the excuse that they're Nintendo, they do things their own way, they just don't get it. They clearly do get it. They're just being sods when they go after people and shut their videos down for using their games without permission. I'm sorry, I'm showing my background as a YouTuber here, but it perturbs me. Makes me toss and turn in my sleep.
Yeah, I mean, last night I did another E3 podcast, and someone got drunk and mentioned that a long while back I said that the only thing you should ever expect from a conference is for people not to say this is going to be the best game ever. Because if you don't set out to make the best game ever, then you shouldn't really start making a game. Like, who sets out and goes, all right, we've watched Mel Brooks' The Producers, we're going to make a terrible, terrible game and write it off as a tax loss because then we'll be millionaires.
Oh, you haven't been on Steam lately.
Well, this is it. Like, Nintendo have got endless amounts of enthusiasm and attitude that is in the correct kind of direction, and then they absolutely waste all their time pumping efforts into tiny plastic figures and saying, hey, that's Nintendo now. We just sell tiny plastic figures at £15 each, which is fine if that's just what they do. But then they put out something like Splatoon and show that actually they can make really good games, but it won't be their original, like their IP. It only works when they're generating something that shouldn't work. And then everybody goes, oh, Splatoon's brilliant. And the fact that stood out more than anything else during the World Championship shows how great that game is, but also why Nintendo really need to sort out their priorities.
Not at all bitter about failing to get that Sonic amiibo, then?
Nope.
Do you think Nintendo should actually bring that thing back for next year? Or do you think it's just one of these things where they should just have it as a one-off every now and again?
If they bring it back, they should bring it back as a proper competition.
Yeah.
Go the line of Evo or something, a Nintendo version of Evo. I mean, it's still going to be lighter than anything else, but...
They're not going to let real gamers on their show. They might say a bad thing like bum or balls or bumbles, and then a child could hear it and self-harm.
That is true. But if they did regional ones and then just invited the winners of each regional to E3 to perform, that would be worth watching, in the sense that they could still vet it. I mean, if they wanted to, they could still just pull people entirely from supermarkets, but it could be a worldwide supermarket thing. So you could have like an Australian going down the aisles, pick up like 6 cans of Castlemaine 4X or whatever it is they actually drink, and then somebody from Nintendo go, hello, I'm from Nintendo, would you like to play a game? And then he'll play the game and he'll be like, Bonza, that's a really good game and I'm really good at this. And then he'll go and he'll be made to wear obviously a hat with corks on it and talk exactly like Australia's talking American films, and then just do that. And it could be like one of those 1980s comedy films where all of the UN are dressed in national dress, and then they could all just be sat around a big stage all playing Nintendo together. That, although obviously racist, would be brilliant because you know who to root for.
It's a big problem with Nintendo, though, isn't it? They dislike the organic. They go up there and say, we just want people to smile. But really good, really fun moments can only come organically. And Nintendo can't bear the idea of not being in complete PG-13 control of a thing. They've got to fiddle with it. They've got to fiddle with the squids and fiddle with the kids. And the squids now, and the kids now, and the squids and the kids. And the... Look, did you think I was being dodgy there?
It did sound slightly dodgy. But
I don't know.
the thing is...
I'm too innocent for this show.
The thing is with the kind of... Nintendo have always tried to keep their own stuff PG-13, but they have moved into things like Zombie U and things like that. They're more accepting of kind of the hard.
Yeah, they have these weird periods, don't they? These like phases where there was this time when there wasn't even a shooter on the Wii, and then out of nowhere they produced Mad World and what was the other one? House of the Dead, Overkill. Two of the most offensive video games ever written.
Very, very true, but it's Nintendo themselves. We'll get onto them when we get onto their briefing a little bit later on, because hint, hint, it was terrible. But it was Bethesda, one of the new guys who kicked things off properly when it comes to E3 press conferences. And unlike with the other new guys, Square Enix, Bethesda sort of like they looked like it wasn't their first show. It looked like they had been doing a couple of shows before what they managed to produce at E3, and I was quite sort of impressed with them. It was a decent way to start off E3, because they just went, screw it, we're going to show the most glorious game we can show in Doom.
Yeah, which looked glorious, or glorious, if you prefer. Beating someone to death with their own limb. I want more of that in games.
I'm astonished that has never showed up in a video game before, or at the very least that if it has, then it hasn't had any mainstream success, because you could just put that on the Kickstarter.
Mortal Kombat?
Can you beat people with their own limbs in Mortal Kombat as a game mechanic?
As a game mechanic, no. I'm trying to think, there was a game I did play a long time ago that did have that as a mechanic. I think that
was a game called Thrill Kill, which you could do that, but it wasn't technically released.
It was never released, no. I will say, as an old curmudgeon, that... Oh, I forgot what we were talking about. Oh, yes, Doom. Somebody did a recolor of the E3 Doom footage to make it look like it had the vibrant red and green primary colours of the original Doom on DOS. And point well made, I feel. Doom has always been a very, very brash, very cartoony thing. And it breaks my heart just a little bit to see it repurposed for the everything is mud-coloured Gears of War, Call of Duty generation. But as long as it's better than Doom 3 and it doesn't have The Rock in it, I'm going to be happy.
Yeah, but...
Go on, Stu.
I was going to say, it was just, it was impressive to watch because we weren't sure what the game would look like. Doom has always been a decent looker. You look at Doom 3, but the gameplay of Doom 3 was shockingly bad. Whereas Doom 4, the way it started off, you were thinking to yourself, they're not going to do this again, are they? It's just started off very much like a Halo game where you just control a no-face guy jumping quite far and the graphics looking pretty. And then you saw a few of the enemies with the AI being really sketchy and them just standing there and shooting at you like they're just rooted to the ground. But once the gore kicked in, it was one of those games where the gore saved it. Pulling out chainsaw and cutting them in different areas of the body, and like you says, taking off limbs and beating them to death with it and blowing people up with a shotgun. The only thing that wasn't shown was the BFG, which slightly annoyed me. I wanted to see that.
They sort of powered it up towards the end, didn't they? That sort of one shot against the boss where it sort of had big charge up. But yeah, I mean, for me, a lot of people for the last few years got very excited at any conference when somebody showed destructible environments, and yet the one thing we've not really seen at this stage for a while is destructible like bodies that go. You often see like if you cut with a sword across here, like Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, that you can cut like this and it would be fine. But that's like a very specific selling point with Doom. They're not sort of making a big deal out of it, but if you shoot someone in the side, you're taking a chunk out of their side, and that's a really kind of cool little feature as well. Even without the kind of the abject gore factor, it's just kind of cool that these character models can be built to have that range of deformation in there as well.
While we're talking about Doom, seeing as this is the Monday Movie Show, hey Stuart,
But
what's Carmack's condition? No?
no.
Nobody? I was making an oblique reference to The Rock's worst line in the Doom movie. It basically goes, "We have to talk about Carmack's condition. What's Carmack's condition? Clack, clack, boom, he's effing dead." That's
Okay.
it. That's it, really.
But
No, go on, talk among yourselves.
With the amount of first-person shooters that have been shown off, the very stereotypical Call of Duties now moving into the futuristic era, very much looking like Titanfall and all that kind of stuff. It's probably nice to see a Wolfenstein-esque game, because Wolfenstein was very old-fashioned. The New Order was very old-fashioned in the way it played. The fact that you had to pick up health packs to get recover health and all that kind of stuff. It's nice to see that Bethesda realizes there's an area of first-person shooters which don't need to be like Call of Duty.
Yeah, I mean the 90s was a great time for first-person shooters. Like people forget that before Call of Duty you had Medal of Honor, but before Medal of Honor you had games like Blood, and you had games like Doom, and you had Duke Nukem before Duke Nukem was a parody of itself. And when I played like the New Order, I immediately felt like, yes, okay, it's got the visuals of a new gen game, but it felt like a 90s shooter.
The Catacomb Abyss
What?
predated both Wolfenstein 3D and Doom. Just putting it out there.
Oh, okay, that's all right. Yeah, hipster. So yeah, but that feel of a game.
Oh,
I've
Bouncy,
kind of
that's your excuse for everything. Somebody knows more than you, they're a hipster.
No, I was just putting out points of reference that people would understand without Wikipedia, which is kind of cool. But yeah, so that 90s feel, it's like when you watch a film and it feels like, oh, I haven't seen a film that looks like this since like late 70s crime cinema. The same sometimes with games, you get that feel like, and it's not even a retro vibe, it's just a way of making games that were the shotgun is the best gun in the game. And now it's all like, oh well, you got all this authentic weaponry and
We have got a game in which the shotgun is the best
jetpacks and
best gun in the
parachutes, and you
game.
can fly, you can run along walls. But with Wolfenstein, it was just like, yeah, pick that shotgun up because that's your best friend.
It's called Destiny.
Yeah, but again, you still got jetpack.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So you've just proven it.
Moving away from Doom, Dishonored 2. Did anybody play the first Dishonored?
I didn't, but I fully acknowledge that I really should have.
What was your thoughts on Dishonored?
You want to go?
No, let's ask the Immortan Bouncy about this.
I wasn't even going to pipe in, but yeah, I adore the first one. The new one looks very, very good, but I want to see like full-on proper gameplay next time.
And Jerry?
I wasn't actually particularly impressed with Dishonored overall. From like the mechanics, it felt like a mash of mechanics from BioShock and Thief, like mashed up in a nice steampunk package. But I also felt it was really short. Now maybe I might have kind of flown through it, but I felt it was really short, and I really didn't like the ending.
So for you, what would they be able to? What could they do with Dishonored 2 to change it enough so it'll be much better than the original?
Make it harder.
In-app purchases?
No, nobody likes that.
No. I think the two things that I really did enjoy Dishonored because I thought the game world was a world I wanted to explore. But then the downside of that game is it never gives you the opportunity to explore. It's incredibly linear while giving you the illusion of choice. Yes, you can choose whether you attack with that route or this route, but ultimately the branching storyline doesn't affect where you go or kind of how you experience it. And the problem is you're in this amazing world where you've got kind of an element of witchcraft, an element of magic, but also this kind of industrial revolution, steampunk feel. And so I want a bigger area of that world that I can kind of visit. And I think we're now at a stage where these games, like a lot of games are now coming out and their big selling point is open world. So like the new Ghost Recon, there's never needed open world in a Ghost Recon game, but now it's Just Cause mixed with Ghost Recon, because you've got a huge world in which you can choose what you do. And if there's that sort of non-linearity to Dishonored 2, I think that'll mark it up massively on the original.
Anything else with Dishonored 2? Or is it just... we also had the announcement of the definitive edition for Dishonored, so the typical remake that we've been getting... Well, it's not remake, it's a retooling of the game, make it more pretty, the prettyifying version of the game. That we've been getting from a lot of last-gen games, just so they can fill up the catalogue of the this-gen games.
But enough about Final Fantasy VII.
But I think the other thing with the like the remastered versions, it's not just about like obviously cashing in again second time around. It's also keeping that series fresh in people's minds. Because for a lot of people, like we know there's new Sleeping Dogs on the way, so Sleeping Dogs Definitive turns up. We've got Dishonored 2 on the way, so while that's in development, let's just remind people that Dishonored was a thing. They gave away with Games with Gold a couple of months ago, and now obviously the Definitive will mean that anybody that's entering at New Gen level, and let's not play bones about it, there are people who would have missed Dishonored first time round, because that's 2011 I think Dishonored came out. So there are people who are going to be new to gaming that may need that little reminder or that opportunity to kind of experience that world pre the new game coming out, which is quite a handy thing to have.
Well, couldn't they just pick up a second-hand copy of the original game?
Well, that would have worked if Microsoft had announced backwards compatibility a bit earlier. Then a lot of people probably would have gone to the expense to say, "Hey, let's rework this game so it will work on new gen," because none of them are going to be backwards compatible. And I dare say a few unannounced plans for like definitive editions maybe quickly dashed now, because that's I'm sure it's going to shoot a few people in the feet, despite being a great piece of news regardless.
Does anyone here really care about 60 FPS or HD? Because I recently played my first 60 FPS HD remake, and it really didn't make that much of a damn of difference to me. In fact, I don't think I can ever remember in my past 30 or 35 years of gaming ever playing a game and thinking, well, goodness me, the quality of these graphics is really spoiling my experience.
I don't know. I think if you have constantly watched something on Blu-ray and then you go to a standard def DVD copy, it can certainly impact how much you enjoy the visual style of a film. So
yeah,
I
but
think
what about you? That's what I'm asking. Is this something that's on your mind? Is it relevant? Are you like Total Biscuit, where you'll play a game and say, 30 FPS? What is this, bloody Syria?
No, I wouldn't say I'd get that far. But what I would say is I want my games to look as pretty as possible. And with the example of Sleeping Dogs, the lighting on that is phenomenal in comparison to the original, let alone against any other game of its peers. But it wasn't because it was prettied up that I bought that game again. I bought that game again because it was 18 quid with an art book, and it was a bloody awesome game.
Yeah, it makes it all look too clean for me. It's like the new Clangers. It just doesn't have the charm. It looks too clean.
Yeah, and with Bethesda, obviously the big thing, Fallout 4. They revealed the trailer for, well, a standard trailer for it a week before E3, because obviously they were expecting it to leak, so they thought, we'll jump the gun here. We'll release some information to do with Fallout 4 before our press conference on the Sunday, where we will show off the game itself. in some way, shape, or form, and that's what they did. That was their pretty much crux of their press conference. The last 25 minutes of the show was devoted to Fallout 4 and that Pip-Boy edition, which I so want. I know it's only like a cover for your phone to go on your arm, but it still looks freaking awesome.
Yeah, well, as the conference said, it is a gimmick, but it's an effing amazing gimmick, and that's the point. Like, it is, if you're a fan of the series, that kind of thing is what would sell it to you. I have to admit that I have ordered a copy, despite not wanting to give Game any money whatsoever, and definitely not wanting to support retailer exclusivity. But I couldn't say no to a Pip-Boy. I just worry it's not going to fit my massive forearms.
So Pip-Boy is available in game. Has that been hunting for it? Yes,
yeah.
Stores in Ireland, unfortunately.
My grandmother was such a big fan of the ink spots. The ink spots, Fallout.
Yeah.
I don't want.
I was waiting for the next part of that story. I thought you were going to say, so when she played Fallout, she was really happy to hear that or something.
Oh, you mean something that people might find entertaining? Why don't you tell people how your Fallout shelter is doing?
My Fallout shelter's doing really well. Everyone is at 98% happiness currently. I'm now looking straight at it. But yeah, I really like this app. It's now it's more profitable than Candy Crush. It's second. It's second in the as a weekly thing. It's second in the most profitable apps charts, despite having no intrusive payment system whatsoever.
And not being always on.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, I had a look at what the kind of purchasable things are. They're basically just cards that give you weapons and accessories and stuff. And they said the most bought item so far is the $14.99 level, which is the highest you can get in the game, which is pretty much right on my limit of kind of acceptable in-app purchases. But yeah, even with just a 15 quid limit, they've still managed to rocket the chart and knock out all those Candy Crushers, which is great news.
Faith in humanity restored then. The only way they could improve it for me is by putting it on Android so that I can actually play it for more than 30 seconds without it force closing. And that's not an exaggeration.
No.
Yeah,
no,
I've got Android device, Android phone, Android tablet, and I thought I would jump onto the App Store hoping it's been there, and then read the fact that Bethesda said no. But it might be there in a couple of months' time if you're lucky.
Yeah, it's a glorious little thing. It's got all the stylings of Fallout. It also got all the benefits of Tiny Tower, but with far more control over what I do. My favourite bit, and I'll bring it up now, is you can send.
I think we may have lost Mr. Bahul. Oh no, there he is. Sorry.
Land. You can collect items, but it gives you like a rundown of what she's encountered. So my Kathleen is out at the moment, and it tells you every fight she's had, how she's feeling, little jokes and things, talking to herself, which I quite like. I think it's like a nice little feature. It doesn't have to be there. It could just be she's gone out and there'll just be a little timer. But as it is, it's there. It's all in, and like I say, it's a fantastic little game.
Yes, but we lost Bouncy for about half of that. So, just to fill you in on what he was saying at the start there's a sort of little mini turn-based RPG section that you can engage in by kicking somebody out of the vault into the wilderness. And it's lovely. I think that was the spirit of what you were saying, Bouncy.
Pretty much, yeah.
So thoughts on Fallout 4? Jerry, go to you first. What did you like the look of it? Are you a Fallout fan?
I've been a fan of the universe, and Fallout's a massive time sink to a degree, so I've always kind of been wary of it. But this one I will definitely be getting, mainly for the crafting thing, where you can basically scavenge parts and start building buildings. You can build basically your own small town in the post-apocalyptic wilderness. That for me is I'm going to get the game, I'm going to get out, I'm going to get some stuff, and then I'm just going to build myself a small town. I'll probably call it Defiance and make a TV show about it.
But the thing with that is, when I was watching it, I was thinking, are they trying to add too much to the game? It's sort of like a distraction in a way of you being able to build this. I know they turn around and says you don't have to do it if you don't want to. You can just continue the game like it would be a normal Fallout game. But adding Minecraft-esque kind of elements to the game where you can build your world and hopefully no creepers turn up or anything like that. It's just, I felt they were adding too much to the game rather than concentrating on the stuff that they should hopefully be making better, i.e. very few glitches.
They're not really adding to it, they're just fleshing out what was there before. People tend to forget that Fallout 3 had crafting items with bits in a post-apocalyptic setting long before there were about 80 zillion goddamn asset flips on Steam charging $30 a pop for stuff in early access. So I think it's way time for Fallout to come back and not only reclaim the throne, Sainsbury's fortified British cream is what I'm going to blame on my speech impediments this evening. Sadly, I don't have a geographical location that I can pin them on, unlike Stuart, but moving on. Yeah, it's time for Fallout to come back, reclaim the throne, and show all the pretenders how it's done.
Maybe...
Well, for me, when I've completed Fallout, any story mission, I then spend the rest of my time walking around trying to find everything I can find. So to give me some other purpose is certainly... Like, I collected loads of forks just because I could. And I had an entire shed that I would travel back to and put all the forks I'd found in a shed. So now I can actually have like a museum of forks in a little town. And that's amazing to me, like just being able to build my fork museum. I might even open like a side wing and put spoons in it or something. That'd be brilliant.
First time I played Fallout 3, I blew up Megaton, got the penthouse apartment, and then set about murdering everybody else in the building, and just sat on the balcony thinking, I'm in charge.
Yeah, it's those elements are what make Fallout Fallout. It's giving you that choice. Like, there is a story. But even if you don't follow the story, there's still these little side things where you can just go, hey, all right then. There was that one town where they'd slaved everybody, and you could help enslave further, or you could rescue them, or you could just set fire to everything. And I like that, and yeah, it just looks like they've really spent a long while making sure that the game itself is solid. There's no way it's going to release without bugs, because it's a Bethesda game, but B, it's going to be on such a scale that it'll be almost impossible to completely check. But I don't mind if I'm sitting in a chair surrounded by forks.
Fallout 3 still had bugs about 3 years after launch, so yeah, let's not hold our breath on that.
Well, they have spent 4 years working on it. So it might be slightly... And, like, kudos to them, they sat on that little number for quite a while before it leaked, that it existed at all.
It adds to the charm as well, doesn't it? If there is bugs in a Bethesda game, because you're never going to expect a Bethesda game not to have any bugs in it. You're expecting glitches to happen. That's, like I said, it adds to the charm. When you watch a lot of YouTube playthroughs of games like that, or YouTube videos of it, you see the weird things that happen in the game, of heads popping through buildings or strange things like that occurring. So it's inevitable that they're going to be in there and people seeking that kind of stuff out.
My copy actually had a really hilarious bug where Liam Neeson was in it.
Okay. Other things at Bethesda's press conference, an Elder Scrolls Legends free-to-play card strategy game for the PC.
Yeah. Well, in a time where Hearthstone is doing incredibly well, that's not a bad move. It also fills the void between this and the next Elder Scrolls game as well. You've got Elder Scrolls Online. To be able to put the two crossover would be very, very easy. I think it's a very lucrative market that's gaining ground all the time. So, again, it fits into that thing of Bethesda. They release a mobile app that's free to play to support the idea of Fallout, but it's nothing to do with the game. It's just, it is what it is. And I think the same with that card thing for Elder Scrolls. It's, again, tapping into that mobile market, that PC mobile market that's going to get like bigger and better all the time. So, again, a very canny move on their part.
Yeah, The Witcher 3 came out recently, and it's got like a 30-hour main quest and hundreds of hours of side quests, and all anybody could talk about on Twitter was playing Gwent, so you can't say it doesn't make sense for them to make that move.
Yeah, and there are people that have now made their own Gwent cards to play it in real life. One of the collector's editions came with a deck of them, and people are now trying rapidly scanning them in and getting their own print version on proper cardstock, so they can then take Gwent to the pub with them and play it properly there. So I wouldn't be surprised if that didn't come out as a separate app. You know, you had Fable pub games to support Fable 2 as well, so it's not a new thing, but with the rise of tabletop gaming anyway, again, it's another way of just sort of crossing that divide. But yeah, better and better all the time.
It's a little bit like how Yu-Gi-Oh started. That was a fanswell thing. Yu-Gi-Oh wasn't originally a story about card games. It was a story about fads, sort of like Sting in the Tail, Tales of the Unexpected style stuff, each one themed around a fad. And there was one episode about yo-yos, there was one episode about virtual pets, and this was the time when Magic the Gathering was kicking off, so they did an episode about collectible card games. And the collectible card game that they actually made up for the story, before long people started writing in en masse to Shonen Jump saying, what is this game? Can you buy the cards? What are the rules? Can we make our cards and play it at home? And it just kind of took off. And that's the story of how Yu-Gi-Oh was made.
Lovely, and BethesdaNet was the other thing that I've got written down. Is there anything else I missed from Bethesda's press conference that they showed off?
Not that I can think of right now. You will have to excuse me because Bouncy's dropped from the call and I'm doing my level best to get him back in again. So perhaps if you were to move on to the next thing on your 6-page list, and maybe we can all get to bed by Friday.
Well, BethesdaNet is basically seems to be their version of BattleNet, and that seems to be really the height of it. As such, just basically a UI for logging into your different Bethesda games.
Yeah, just tracking stats across Bethesda games and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not surprised that they would decide to do like that, considering the kind of games that Bethesda do. They do these open world, big, expansive games, and people are interested to find out other people's stats, or being able to go there, maybe get mods really easily and find more information about upcoming add-ons and all that kind of stuff as well.
And it might make it easier to find parties for co-op play and stuff like that, depending on what game you're playing. Or your CCG game. I'm concerned about the CCG thing because while it can go really right, it can, like Hearthstone, it can go terribly, terribly wrong. There's a very crowded marketplace and there's a lot of very bad CCGs, both tabletop and online.
Yeah.
Bouncy is back.
Hello.
Oh, good. At least I know I'm capable of adding people to the call, and that obviously it's Dr. Hamhock's Kazakhstanian internet connection, which has prevented us from Jim from joining us this evening.
And perfect time to return because onto one of the big three now, Microsoft. Microsoft out of the... At least somebody was happy about Microsoft stuff. Considering when I watched, I thought, okay, the same old Microsoft. But Microsoft always have their press conference before Sony do and before Nintendo do, so just so they can get in there first, and then Sony come along and trump them by going, oh, we're doing things better than you, and then Nintendo just sit in a corner crying a little bit. But Microsoft, instead of doing what they normally do, start off their show with Call of Duty, they decided to start off their show with Halo 5 Guardians. And their campaign...
deciding had more to do with the fact that Call of Duty's now got a load of exclusive stuff with Sony. I don't think they'd want to really help Activision after Destiny goes over there and now Call of Duty's over there. But to start with your biggest kind of lone IP shooter, I think it's not a bad move, but yeah, I would never expected it to be Call of Duty. As soon as that wasn't the first game, I thought straight away I knew that Sony were going to grab that exclusivity on DLC.
Yeah, we'll get onto that in Sony's press conference. But Halo 5, thoughts on it? It just, to me, it looked like a prettier version of Halo 4.
I'm going to step back from the Microsoft thing because I don't have much to say about it, because Microsoft are balls and bum and also bumbles. If they have one game and it's called Bumbles, and the theme song goes, Bumbles, it's a whole lot of fun, prizes to be won. Use your balls and your bum if you want to say I've won. But anyway, Halo was responsible for what was for me the best joke of E3. Because everybody was sitting around making jokes about Gears of War, saying, "Ha! They should have called it Gears of 4. Yeah? Yeah." And then you got Halo 5, which is... You may know that it's all about looking for the Master Chief, because you're not sure whether he's become a traitor or whether he's actually still a hero, and you've got to track him down and find out the truth. And Jim Sterling said they'd missed the trick by not calling it Halo, Is It Me You're Looking For? There you go.
That actually hurt my head.
But back to Halo 5 and what it looked like. Thoughts?
Yeah, Halo 4, but pretty. The beta for the multiplayer was incredibly underwhelming when I played that early this year, I think it was. They put it out. It just felt like Halo 2, which is what they're going for, apparently. They wanted to make it very competitive, but nothing about it felt like a massive step forward. But I think maybe that's the right move, because there's a certain visual fidelity jump, but if it changes what a Halo game is, then obviously you've got a lot of people who are annoyed. Halo 4 annoyed enough people, despite being quite good. People are like, "Oh, jetpacks, can't have jetpacks. Oh no, it's not the same without Bungie. You can't have 343 don't know what they're doing with a Halo game." Well, they clearly do, but I don't think it's one that's going to... it doesn't need to change it. It doesn't need to be different for what it is, because it's going to sell a shed load of copies based on the fact that it's 2 stories in one game as well, which is always going to help.
Which number was Reach?
None of them. It was a spin-off, like a side story. It was before 4.
4.5 then?
No, before 4.
Technically, it was the 5th game.
Yeah.
What about ODST?
ODST was after Reach,
Okay.
as far as I remember.
I'm sorry. I'm
Yeah,
muddying the waters.
ODST was a side line to Halo 3, and Halo Wars didn't count, but that is a thing. And then Reach was just Bungie's last one before they left for Microsoft. So yeah, they didn't like to just do something standard, just go, "Hey, let's number it all." But yeah, Halo 5, or Halo 5 Guardians, which is a little bit cheeky when you consider the fact that that's what Destiny is. It's almost like they just go, "Well, Bungie, you might have copyrighted the fact that we can't put Destiny adverts on the Xbox, but we're going to subtitle our game Guardians. Ha 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 ha. And look, all these people look like your Guardians off of that Destiny game. Ha ha."
It's going to sound weird, but I tend to pick up novels when I'm traveling. That I got into the Halo novels because they were going cheap at the time. But one called The Thursday War, which was actually really good. But I'm actually really interested now because I've got this expanded universe knowledge. I'm kind of interested to see where they're going with that story. And Bouncy has vanished again.
Oh dear.
Brilliant.
I shall
Brilliant.
get on it forthwith, chaps.
24-player multiplayer as well in the
That
multiplayer side of things.
sounds messy.
It does sound messy because if you've played, I think it was Reach's multiplayer where there was a few more open areas, and it did feel like it felt more. Much more than like the typical 6-on-6 or whatever it was from 3 or whatever. It felt a few more
6 on
players.
6, I think, should be the max for Halo multiplayer.
Because it's that kind of flow to the game. It's supposed to be fast and frenetic, and if you've got 12 on 12, it's not going to feel like that. It's just like you said, going to feel messy.
Yeah, 12 on 12 with gravity hammers and jetpacks. That's just going to be insane.
Yeah, and my guess is the campaign is probably going to have 4-player co-op.
From the looks of it is. Now, the one thing that came out, more detailed things, was there's actually going to be 2 squads. So one squad is going to be led by Master Chief, and another squad is going to be led by the Nathan Fillion's character. Can't remember his name off the top of my head. But, yeah, it looks more kind of, I'm going to say Rainbow Six style just because it's in my head. It's the wrong thing, but that kind of squad-based maneuvers throughout the combat. But it looks like you're going to be able to do it solo play as well. You're going to be able to lay out commands as well. So it looks like the campaign's going to actually be better than the multiplayer, which is probably not the best thing to say about an FPS.
It would be a dreadful irony if they decided to add a few leveling up features and let you gradually power up your character over a multiplayer campaign, and people liked it better than Destiny, simply because it had a couple of the most elementary social features you could imagine. Especially seeing as Destiny costs the GDP of a small country to produce.
It's just, yeah, Halo 5, more Halo. If you're a Halo fan, you're obviously going to snap this up. It might sell a few Xboxes come Christmas, because there is going to be pack-ins. There's going to be an Xbox console with Halo 5 Guardians. I think it's a terabyte one, isn't it? Which they're going to pack the game into, would be my guess. So
and you also drawn a line between, we're bringing out a 1 terabyte drive, and you can download all your old Xbox 360 games.
Yeah, and the backwards compatibility thing was a bit of the whoop in the crowd was, you were thinking, what, this is the first time backwards compatibility is added to a console that like it never existed before. But being able to play Xbox 360 games on Xbox One, to be honest, I couldn't care less. It's only like the first wave is like 22 titles. It's not like you're going to be able to do it with every single game, because they did announce that it's going to be staggered with the games that it's going to be compatible with, and it's just going to make them slightly more prettier because it runs off the Xbox One's internal stuff. I don't care.
It might push me. If I was still inclined to buying anything that Microsoft have touched, then it would probably push me over the edge into buying an Xbox One. The thing is, though, that they poisoned the well for me with the launch of Xbox. And it's not that they flip-flopped and they changed their minds on what they were going to do, because Sony does that all the time. But the thing is that when Microsoft does it, the Kinect, every Xbox had to have Kinect, and it was integral to the experience. There was no way they would ever get rid of Kinect. And as Jerry Holkins from Penny Arcade said after watching the Microsoft conference, he had to go and check that the Kinect was still under his television to make sure that he hadn't made the whole thing up. Can't have backwards compatibility. Oh, there it is. Territorial lockout. You've got to have always on territorial lockout. Otherwise, we can't deliver the optimal experience. And the same goes for codes with every game that ban you from ever giving it to anyone or selling it to game. And it's just the fact that they're blank-eyed zombie insistence that they have got to have these things in place, and that to remove them would involve recreating the firmware from the ground up, and then all of a sudden, oh no, they're gone. If you were kids in the garden, right, and you all said, let's go to the moon, and you ended up getting as far as the shed roof, if you were with Sony, then they would get bored and go in for some sweets after about half an hour. If it was with Microsoft, you'd still be on the shed roof at 4 o'clock in the morning, with them insisting they could only deliver the optimal playing experience on the shed roof at 4 o'clock in the morning. I've forgotten what I was talking about. Please continue.
Yeah, backwards compatibility, yay, whoopee. The next game they showed after Halo 5 Guardians was an exclusive title, which is going to be made by Kenji Inafune and the team behind Metroid Prime called Rico. And to me, it looked a cross between Metroid and Tomb Raider.
Really? Graphically, it kind of reminded me more of Borderlands. And it seemed to be some slightly toned-down kiddie version of the kind of shoot and loot mentality. Yeah. You're taking out the core, your little doggy got killed. Oh, look, I made up a big doggy.
It's sort of like
actual doggy.
I don't know if anybody played Knack on PS4. One of the launch titles. It sort of had the feeling of Knack as well, and Knack wasn't a good game at all. It was not very well put together. But yeah, it sort of reminded me of a bit like Metroid with a little bit of Tomb Raider, with a little bit of Knack, and it just didn't do much for me, because I normally like those kind of adventure games, but I was looking at it going, okay, fine.
Yeah, I think we need to see more gameplay, if anything else, from it before, because it was a nice trailer. I give him full credit of that. It was one of the nicest trailers that was there. But I don't know. I definitely need to see some more gameplay before I make a call as to whether it's something worth playing.
I avoid making calls on Metroidvania Explorer maps full stop because their quality is so linked to the actual level design and the pacing that you really... It's not even a question of getting hands-on with them. You need a good 4 or 5 hours of FaceTime with them before you can properly criticize them or praise them, I feel.
Next up, the Elite controller.
Wow. The trailer for that was just... It's a controller. Jaguar have less detailed production advertisements.
It was just... And then finding out it's going to cost £130 or $150. That is just ridiculous, considering that the way they showed it in the trailer, it would give you slightly more precise movements when you're playing a first-person shooter, or your character, your player will be able to move around much better if you're playing something like a FIFA game or something like that. And then they've done away with the D-pad and brought in something that's on the Steam controller, that touch pad thingy, and then they've got these little flaps where you can add them onto other parts of the controller, and it felt like something that Mad Catz would stitch together.
I think I've achieved a better technical zenith myself by actually getting Bouncy Ball back into the call. Hello, Bouncy.
Hello, I've been there for a little while. Just sitting
lovely.
nicely.
Lovely.
We weren't sure if your mic was working.
Sorry, Jerry, please continue.
Yeah, no, the only thing about that and the pricing maybe is because that controller is going to be coming bundled with the Oculus Rift. So they may be trying to kind of push people, the controller on its own is this much, but if you go X extra, you get it with the Oculus Rift for free.
That might give you an indication of how much the Oculus Rift will cost then, because that's not going to be cheap at all.
Yeah. That said, I'm probably going to hock a kidney to get a hold of the HoloLens, which we'll probably be talking about shortly.
Yeah, we will be. They showed off more Fallout 4 as well, and you're being able to use mods from the PC, so mods will get created and you'll be able to use them on Fallout 4 in the Xbox One version.
I'm just going to say that it's probably not going to be as good as the ColecoVision controller.
I actually have one of those right here.
I'm thinking of the right one, aren't I? The one with about 16 buttons.
Yeah, and kind of slide up and down clicky things.
Yeah, and a great big analog stick. Decades ahead of their time. I liked the wrestling game you could get on that because it had a character called Judge Injury. See, Judge and Jury. Judge Injury.
That's good.
Yep. But mods on games on Xbox One. Mods on consoles.
That's...
Card games on motorcycles.
Well, no, you've had the option for a while now on certain games to make mods and bring them through. Not just talking about Halo Forge, but Dragon Age, you got like that global world settings that you could mess with and things like that. Whether anybody on PC is going to care whether an Xbox player plays it or not, or we don't know how that actual functionality is going to work. Is it going to be just because it's the same architecture for both of them? Or is there going to be some sort of weird patchy thing that's going to make half the things that come across from the PC look terrible?
It's not going to sell any consoles to PC diehards, is it? And it's there's a weird disconnect between PC gamers and console gamers. And I think mods are the best example of it, because you can show a console gamer the Skyrim mod that turns all of the dragons into Macho Man Randy Savage, or all of the dragons into Fluttershy from My Little Pony, and they'll just look at you like you're an offender and say, "Why would you want to do that?"
Yeah, Bouncy, any thoughts? Mods?
Yeah, well, I think for me, the overriding thing with mods is a continual thing of Microsoft wanting to push Windows 10 and Xbox One closer and closer together. So
oh, we lost him again.
Obviously, play your Xbox
there he
games via your laptop anywhere. The controller, Wordle Legends, the mod stuff is just another element of let's make the experience more of a crossover time for it.
Yeah, and with Windows 10 supposedly being Microsoft's last Windows, because they're just going to iterate on it. Yeah, okay, bring it on to Xbox One. The Xbox One is going to feel more like a Steam machine by the end of it. It's not going to feel like a games console.
That's not a bad thing, though.
It's not a bad thing.
It's the more that Microsoft realise that what they're good at is making games consoles and like being like the world leader on operating systems. It just seems stupid to try and run those separately. And looking at mods, I mean, you had Unreal Tournament on the PlayStation 3, had support for mods, was barely used. But that's, I think, more.
And we're back live on
that whole generation didn't mix together. There wasn't the PC gamers really buying those on.
And we're back live and direct on Network 23 with Edison Carter. I'm implying that you sound like Max Headroom because you've got a third world internet connection there, Bouncy.
I really have. That's village living for you. Village living.
If EA popped up, they had to. They have to pop up in practically everybody's press conferences apart from Nintendo's. But they showed off Titanfall is going to be part of EA Access, along with Dragon Age Inquisition at the end of near to the end of the year as well. And then they just showed off Plants vs Zombies: Garden Warfare 2, which is out next spring.
I really am looking forward to that. Garden Warfare is glorious. It's a glorious, glorious game. It's probably the best shooter on new gen.
Probably the spiritual successor to Monday Night Combat.
Yeah, it's got elements of that. It's got elements of Team Fortress 2. It feels like a Battlefield game, and yet it's entirely family-friendly and adorable and incredibly well-designed and has had a year's worth of free content supports from EA, which is phenomenal. And if they could do that with a second one, then I'm all for it. And they had Danger Zone as the music for the trailer for that game. Yeah. So that's, it parodies this whole modern warfare element, like of advanced futuristic war, just like the first one took the mickey out of general squad-based shooters. So it's a parody, but also a very well put together game. And yet it will still be ignored by a huge chunk of people who think the only way to play a shooting game is with more realism. And by realism, it's strapping an exosuit on and firing your laser gun at aliens flying down from space.
That are the colour of mud against a mud-coloured background. So shoot them with your mud-coloured gun.
You say that. I think that's the one thing I've got as an overriding thought of E3. It was the most colourful E3 I've seen in years.
Yeah, I was riffing on the the predilection towards games that just look boring and awful.
Yeah.
Setting aside that Plants vs Zombies: Garden Warfare 2 was good. The best thing I saw about Ubisoft was somebody on Twitter made a graphic to sum up their conference, and it was, now that's what I call Assassin's Creed 85.
But yeah, I love Plants vs Zombies: Garden Warfare myself. I downloaded it when Sony gave it away for free during their E3 press conference last year on PS4. I originally had it on Xbox One, but I've no longer got an Xbox One because I got rid of it. But yeah, it is a lot of fun. I found myself playing that more so than practically any other game, and now I'm finding myself playing more of Splatoon than The Witcher 3 or Far Cry 4 or Grand Theft Auto 5, because it is just that kind of thing where you can just throw it on and have a quick game of it and be entertained for the 20 minutes that you play it for, rather than having to hunker down with a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hour bit.
Yeah. And also, games are very serious now. They're very depressing. You play games which can have unhappy endings and can reflect real life. And then that kind of goes against everything that we used to have. Like, when we were growing up, we used to play games with, like, moles running away from the police, or, like, people who were basically just a body with giant eyes on it skiing down a hill or avoiding spiders. It was just great fun. And now, that's why I think Garden Warfare and Splatoon and games like it, and why Nintendo still managed to keep their claws in, is because sometimes you actually do just want to play something bright and colourful and cheerful.
It depends on how funny and light-hearted you think Destiny is. I mean, it is, but unintentionally so.
Yeah. Yeah, unless you're playing with the people I play with, and then it's just a constant stream of, oh, ouch, 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 in a Welsh accent constantly. Oh, there's a lot of people. Ouch! Like I don't get what. Ouch! Say, come help me. Clarify what you're saying. It's bizarre.
This just sums up how bloody spoiled and jaded we've got as a generation of gamers. I remember the first time I went to Venus on Destiny, and it was only on the 360. Not that the current gen versions are particularly much of a step up, but my good God, the skyboxes on Venus with these giant plumes of smoke and mountains and these beautiful, amazing wrecked skyscraper environments. And I thought, my goodness, for the first time in as long as I can remember in a video game, I actually feel like I'm on another planet, which is so odd because the whole point of video games should be able to make you feel transported in that way. And I was exploring, and all of a sudden, two people on bikes drew up, jump off their bikes and gun down everything. And it was our friends, the Flares, Synaptic Flare and his wife, Digital Flares. And they were like, "You're right, Dalek." I said, "Oh, hello guys, what are you doing on Venus?" And he said, "We're bored."
Yeah. I sat for 5 minutes when I first got to the moon, just looking at Earth, thinking, I've not done that in a game. And I couldn't think of another game where I'd sat on the moon and looked at Earth.
Wonder if I could shoot a portal onto it.
But yeah, and I just sort of sat there and I thought, this is a genuinely like a beautiful moment. The rest of the planet.
And
Yes.
Yep, he's gone again.
Yeah, he's gone again, hasn't he?
Yeah, well, any racing car fans? Ford GT showing off for Forza 6, woot.
Oh,
No.
I was actually having a big discussion with a friend of mine who's a massive petrol head earlier, and we're actually talking about racing games have kind of proper racing games with proper cars have kind of stagnated. It's either Forza or Gran Turismo, with GTA 5 for anything that may possibly be missing between them. There's really stagnated. Now, admittedly, there's not much more you can do. There are only so many cars, there are only so many tracks. But, like, Forza's main selling point is it's slightly shinier this time round.
Yeah, because Forza Horizon, they went off and did sort of a more, I'm not going to say arcadey feel to it, but compared to Forza, it is a more arcadey version of the Forza game, and it's a bit more of a pick up and play for people who are not sure about racing games or look at games like Forza or Gran Turismo and feel like they're out of their depth. And so they need to obviously release a Forza game every single year, so this time they've gone with the more serious of it, and I couldn't care less about the serious side of stuff. It doesn't interest me at all, and this, bringing out a Ford GT, dropping it into the middle of the audience, spending like 5 minutes doing that, and then going, Forza 6, by the way, is out in September.
I have only one thing to contribute driving game-wise. Stuart, you probably heard that the new Mission Impossible was meant to be released at Christmas, but they shoved it back to July because they were unhappy with the ending.
Yeah.
They're so desperate now that it's gone through 3 rewrites, and they're so desperate that the last guy they gave it to rewrite was the guy that has written Need for Speed Rivals and no films.
Oh dear.
Need for Speed Rivals and Modern Warfare 3. Those are the only 2 screenplays he's written.
Fantastic.
And even he's been taken off the project now. Now the only writing credit listed for the movie is the director.
Lovely. Absolutely lovely. And then they moved on to Dark Souls 3.
Woohoo!
Oh, Dark Souls.
I've never played the Dark Souls game. I've never played a Demon Souls game. I've never played Bloodborne.
Ah, that's interesting. Is that from Software?
Yes.
They've Bouncy, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
No, good, he's back again. From Software, they've been a bit quiet. I mean, I played Kingsfield on the PlayStation 1, and it was solid, but nothing to set them a pedigree. This Dark Souls game sounds rather interesting. Why don't you tell us about it? I think he's gone again.
Yeah, I'm guessing he doesn't want to tell us about it.
I think it's Dark Souls, the original Dark Souls, I'll jump in, but it was quite hard. That's the thing that made it. I was like, I would actually like to see Stuart try and play it for a while, because it's ridiculously hard. Demon Souls was insanely hard. Dark Souls, the original, was ridiculously hard. Combat was very brute force, zero mercy. You had to think carefully and tactically. The tactics kind of used in Bloodborne by a lot of players would be similar. I don't know if you've played Bloodborne.
Nope.
Yeah, I have played Bloodborne. I actually spent 12 hours yesterday on Dark Souls 2, doing a level 1 playthrough, and the whole joke there was that I'm the biggest Dark Souls obsessive in the world, but Bouncy's the only one who knows that, and I was trying to make him do a coffee spit on his monitor. But
and instead I just sat quietly and pretended I'd been disconnected and ruined it for you.
Yes, quote-unquote pretended that you're talking to us through a baked bean can on a string. That's what you did there.
Do you agree that Dark Souls 2 was too easy in comparison to the first one?
I'm not sure. I thought it was. But having played Bloodborne and finished it within... I mean, I finished it on YouTube within, I think, 3 days of release. I probably could have done it within 2 days if I didn't have to keep stopping and opening a packet of crisps, apparently. If I didn't have to keep stopping and, doing the recording and breaking it up and uploading everything. And I thought that was because it was easier, but having gone back to Dark Souls 1 and 2 and Demon Souls and being able to basically whip them in 3 or 4 hours, I think I'm just used to the system and used to how they design their levels and used to how you proceed through these games rather than them actually getting objectively easier.
So you think Dark Souls kind of trained you up to be ready for the future of these games?
I think the more you play them, I mean, they've all got the same circle strafing mechanic, which is core to the gameplay. I will say that in Bloodborne, the dodge, they've cranked the dodge up a bit. The way you can just sort of like shimmy to the side and effectively not exist in the physical universe for a couple of nanoseconds is much, much more apparent than it is in the Dark Souls games. But apart from that, I don't think it's massively easier. I still have more trouble getting through a Bloodborne playthrough than I do with a Dark Souls 1 or 2 or a Demon Souls playthrough. I got stuck on the One Reborn horrifically last time I did it.
Yeah, and along with Dark Souls 3, they showed off The Division. There's an Xbox One exclusive beta for it coming this December. You've got also Rainbow Six Siege, which is out in October, and on the Xbox One, you're going to get a free copy of Rainbow Six Vegas and Vegas 2. And so fine, give us games that are like nearly 10 years old, free, where you can probably go to a local game shop and pick it up for £1 each.
I'd like to see an HD remake of Demon's Souls, because that one nearly sank without a trace, being a PS3 exclusive that was universally panned by even Sony themselves. I think the head Sony guy at the time called it ridiculously bad, and it went on to spawn a global sensation. So it's never really been more than a cult hit, and I think it deserves more than that. And I also think it deserves for them to go back and do it properly, because it was bloody awful in terms of design.
Moving on to the indie stuff. They have their ID program, and so they showed off the typical trailer where they reeled off a lot of indie games coming out. Some of them included Cuphead, Rise and Shine, Phantasmal, Westerado, Sword Coast, Life World, The Behemoth, The Below, Ark Recruit, Superhot. So they're just a few games. Any games out of that lot which they showed on the indie stuff, apart from Cuphead, because I heard Dalek say Cuphead earlier on. Apart from that, any of the other ones which interest anybody?
I don't know, they kind of flew through it so fast. They didn't really pick any one particular thing up besides like Cuphead.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it just seemed to be like, here's some indie games that we're going to be releasing. Not here's a game for you to genuinely be interested in and want to buy. It was like hammering through. just really quickly. And I think maybe that's not necessarily a bad thing if some of these games are going to be like 2-3 hour experiences that is perfect for an indie game, or say indie game, as indie as you get going through a massive corporation's affiliate program. But yeah, I mean, there's a few in there that I will keep looking into. I mean, but then just as many that weren't in the show. There's one called The Flame in the Flood, which, as far as I can remember, wasn't shown at any of the conferences, and yet is, from all the games I've looked at from E3, one of the best looking and most exciting. So I think that is the problem with the indie ones. It was more just a case of putting the banner in the ground and saying, well, there you go. We're committed to doing this. I think they've now said they've got 1,000 developers under their banner, which is a ridiculous amount considering they're only putting out like 2 games a week. So hopefully at some point there's going to be a massive wave of it.
Yeah, I'm going to get onto an indie game a little bit later on when we speak about another one of the press conferences, which to me, out of every game shown, it might be my game of the show. But Cuphead, I think the only reason why I was keeping my Xbox One last year was for Cuphead, because it was just shown briefly at last year's E3. And now at this year's press conference, they decided to actually bring out the creators of Cuphead, a brother duo, and show off the game a little bit. And I love the look of that game. I love that 1940s cartoon, over-the-top cartoon style of it. And it's making me think to myself, did I do something stupid and get rid of my Xbox One? And then I realise it's only one indie game, like you said, probably lasts a couple of hours, and I can't justify having a console just for Cuphead.
No.
He's 40s throwback Stuart Miller. I want to say one thing about Cuphead, and that is the old cartoons could be really quite macabre and edgy, and they did some really unpleasant things in them. There was a great episode of Animaniacs where they touched on that. They did an episode called Schnitzelbunk, where they sang a song called the European Friendship Song. And it went, is das nicht dein Kuckucklock? Ja, das ist dein Kuckucklock. Ist das nicht dein Key and Lock? Ja, das ist dein Key and Lock. And the whole thing was note for note a recreation of the now unavailable Donald Duck cartoon, The Führer's Face. And I hope they make as many nods to how frankly effed up cartoons of that era could be, like the old Betty Boop stuff that they don't show anymore. Because, you know, I am all over that.
World War II propaganda cartoons.
Not just that, stuff like Coal Black and the Seven Dwarfs and the old Tom and Jerry's that you can't show anymore because Tom gets tortured to death by the devil.
Yeah, going on a nicer, moving away from that kind of stuff. The other indie game that I saw during that reel, which got my interests piqued, was a game called Beyond Eyes. It's the adventure game where you control the character who's sort of like blind, who can just barely see, and interesting mechanics used in the game. I loved the art style of it. I thought it looked really nice.
Does he have Liam Neeson talking in his ears, telling him where to go? Because if so, they've already done that.
No, it's a little girl looking for a lost cat.
Oh, that's lovely. I'm not going to play it because just the thought of anything bad happening to the cat makes me want to scream.
Yeah.
I couldn't even finish Shadow of the Colossus because somebody spoiled that for me, and I found out that something happens to the horse.
Yeah, this one that the developer of it wanted to represent a kind of stylized version of what it would be if you only relied on other senses. So again, playing much like that app, I can't remember what it's called now.
Papa Sangre?
A bit like Papa Sangre, but also that one where you tap and it reflects the sound waves to reveal your area, but I can never remember the name of it. And also the people that worked on Bioshock 2 are also bringing out a game that also uses this kind of sound revealing a level mechanic. But this is done like so much colour, so much beauty. And also just smells as well. You get like waves of smells coming across. So you get near the sea and all the lines are distorted and it becomes there's too much stimulation there. So yeah, it's I think it got me as excited as Puddle did when that was first announced.
Did it get you as excited as Puddle Lane?
Not as excited as Puddle Lane, because Timothy Spelldragon is the greatest invention of any wizard, and it had a flying saucer, but not a flying saucer, a flying British tea saucer, which was genius.
Wasn't Neil Innes in it?
He was indeed. He played the wizard at the end of Puddle Lane.
I thought so.
Yeah, and Timothy Spelldragon was exclusive to the TV series and then went into the books later on.
Okay, let's get away from Puddle Lane. Back onto Microsoft and the preview launching program kind of thing, very much like what we see on PC, where you can preview games before they launch.
Yeah, I've played one already. I played Elite Dangerous using their preview program, and I didn't get through the tutorial stages because there were more tutorials than the hour would let me play. So that was a slight own goal, but I was going to play that anyway.
They should do what Splatoon does and just write a catchy song that explains the rules.
Yeah, this one, you when you first sign in, it goes, can you link to an account? You don't have an account, so you have to set that up. Then it says new players might want to watch a YouTube video, which then loads the YouTube app, and you watch the video, but the YouTube video exclusively deals with the PC version, so every command is given a keyboard activity. And then when you finally get in, it's like, well, you need to learn this, you need to do this. It doesn't tell you how to fly before it tells you how to shoot. So the tutorials really need some rejigging, or the countdown timer needs to start after you finish them, because you wouldn't let you play the game until you've done them. So I never got to play the game. But the tutorials look very pretty, and I will be buying the game because it's 25 quid, which is cheaper than the Steam version. So, yeah, I'm all over that. It was 100 quid for the early access on PC.
Could you finish the tutorials before the 2-hour refund threshold on Steam?
Probably. You probably could. But yeah, again, all the footage I showed of Elite Dangerous, I love it. I've always wanted to play it. I haven't got a PC that will run it. As soon as I've got the money in my bank, I'll be dropping 25 quid to buy that, because it's a huge game that's going to excite me. But the early access thing is a good idea, and it's. Go on.
I didn't realise you were limited to an hour. Did they actually mention that?
2 hours.
It's the Elite Dangerous one is an hour. Yeah, Elite
Uh-huh.
Dangerous is an hour. I think it varies game to game. They can set it however they want. But yeah, so it's more a fact of some games, an hour will be more than enough time to know whether you want to buy it or not. A game like Elite Dangerous is just so much to learn that hour was sapped up. But I mean, you think 90% of games, that would be enough. Some games you could finish in an hour if they were the right sort of game. So yeah, I don't think that's a too short a period of time to give you that kind of preview. And then you've got early access to it as well. So that's before it's been released for sale. You're still buying the game in early access mode. So you've got the 1 hour trial first, then you can buy it in early access, or you can wait and buy it when it goes to full retail.
Moving on quickly, because we've been on Microsoft a bit too long. The creators of DayZ showed off a new game called Ion. It's coming on PC and Xbox One first.
Which looks exactly like Star Citizen, but they keep going to great pains to say this isn't Star Citizen, which makes me think it's a lot like Star Citizen if they feel the need to say this isn't Star Citizen.
You have the PC gaming show on your list, Stuart?
I don't know.
All right. So basically, Ion, he was on that and he was talking a bit about it, and he was explaining more about the in-depth thing, because they sat down and actually talked like humans about the game for a while. But he was like saying it is kind of different. It's a persistent world, but like his favorite bug so far in the development was last week when you clicked on a player, their organs fell out, and it's a persistent world. So you like had players trying to continue to play the game minus their liver.
Lovely. Nice thought, that.
Yeah, so it is the guy. Yeah, so it's going to be different from Star Citizen, definitely, but it's more about what's happening in the space stations as opposed to going from space station to space station. That makes sense. So I don't know. I think I'll probably give it a look.
I have a problem getting into time sync games. There's just more time worth of games out there than I can reasonably play. I got Warframe about 3 weeks ago, and it's just sat on the PS4 completely untouched. I'm sort of like Heather Mills buying shoes when it comes to video games, in that I only touch half the ones that I buy.
Moving on. Tomb Raider, Rise of the Tomb Raider. They kept on saying exclusive to Xbox One, exclusive to Xbox One. It is still a timed exclusive, isn't it?
Which one of us are you talking to?
Anybody.
Rise of Tomb Raider is holiday exclusive, they keep talking about, so it could come out as early as March next year on other things. But yeah, it's timed exclusive at the moment.
Well Googled, sir.
No, I was just waiting for someone else to jump in and watching Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla from 2002 at the same time.
And was anybody underwhelmed by what they showed of Tomb Raider? Because it was very much similar to what they showed last year. With just gameplay.
Well, it's kind of like that's the gameplay I was expecting for. Rihanna Pratchett was talking a bit about the story today on Twitter and stuff like that. So it looks to be as good as the previous game, which is all I was really looking for. Again, it's definitely on my list to buy, but I'm not really sure what the point of a lot of the things we saw was. There was a look inside the studio as well, which was a couple of minutes of them talking about Lara Croft's appearance, which a bit sexist, really.
Rare is back. They announced that there's going to be a 30-game Rare title, Rare Replay, where it's 30 Rare games from their past thrown onto a disc for $30, or probably over here about £60.
Oh, are they remaking Cookie? I love that one.
None of them are remakes. It's their old games. They're just thrown onto a disc.
You know, their
emulator.
classic collection Sega used to do. It's basically the same thing, just Rare games.
Yeah.
So is Cookie going to be on it? That's the one where you have to hit the ingredients into the bowl by throwing bags of flour at them. But but if there's insects or household cleaning products, you can't knock them in there because that'll be bad. You shouldn't eat those. Don't eat bleach, kids. Don't eat bleach and cockroaches.
But yeah, if people have not played Rare games in the past, or they want a bit of nostalgia to play a few of them, especially something like Conquest Bad Fur Day, the toilet humour in that is awesome. Then it's definitely worth the money, considering the amount of games that you're going to get in that the collection there. And they also showed off a new game. Rare is finally allowed to make something that isn't Kinect games. So they showed off a new game which was called Sea of Thieves, which, to be honest, I didn't like the look of.
It's one of those games that entirely relies on you having friends who are willing to just pull a string for you when you need your ropes tightening. It's like everybody's going to want to either steer the ship or fire a cannon. Nobody's going to want to climb the mail brace or, shovel a cat onto a spade and put it on the front, or just look for land. But if you've got the right friends, that could be a really cool experience. If you haven't, then it's just going to be loads of people on islands and no functioning way of getting off that island because the boat would never work.
You see, I'm a Monster Hunter fan, so I would think I would really dig that. But again, that only works when you've got the right party. That's the thing about asynchronous multiplayer. You can get a great Monster Hunter team where one dedicated person distracts the monster by tanking. One guy hides up on a cliff and shoots tranquilizer darts at it, and a couple more guys go off into the wilderness and go and rummage around in the plants for stuff to make traps and flash bombs and things out of to support the fight. Or you can just get 3 other guys who charge straight at the monster and get eliminated, and the game lasts 30 seconds. You just need the right party.
The thing that got me about it was Rare said this was the most ambitious thing they've ever tried. And I was looking at it going, really? This is the most ambitious thing you could come up with?
Well, it is for them, considering what Microsoft have done to them since they bought them. So it's just, if you need to look all the way back to the start of the Xbox 360, where they had Cameo and Viva Pinata, to when Rare was actually allowed to make a proper game. The rest of the stuff was practically shovelware title for Kinect. So it is probably the most ambitious game they made in the last 10 years. But, yeah.
Fair point.
Fable Legends, free to play, Windows 10, Xbox One, who cares? And Xbox are teaming up with Valve for their VR stuff, and they showed off HoloLens, which
Shiny.
The skeptic in me looks at that and think that's not going to work at all in a home environment. It's going to be very much like the first run of Kinect. Kinect didn't work at all, pretty much all of the time. This HoloLens thing, I don't think it's going to work. It's fine showing it off in a conference environment because they've got the big open, massive, expansive areas to be able to do that. In a home environment, nope. I don't think that's going to work.
I think it will, because it was originally like the games section of it is the last thing they went to work on with HoloLens. It's mainly been brought in originally for engineering work, where you could see an overlay of, say, like if you're looking at aircraft wires, which is basically it's late 90s technology as well to a degree. It's just managed to make it work properly, where you'd like see an overlay of what the wires were supposed to be across what the wires were in front of you and things like that. I think they've actually worked it so it will function properly at close range. Now, whether games will function properly with it, especially in the first couple of runs, that's a big question.
Because Minecraft, maybe, is because it can be played in multiple different forms, so that's fine. Anything else, you won't want to play something like a Call of Duty on that. The only game where I can sort of see where it might work is something like The Division, where it's got that you could use the HoloLens as the one person could use that as the tactical area of it, so look down as a bird's eye view on the map and see where people can actually go and flank other people, or where you could actually move other people around while somebody else is actually playing the game. So it could be maybe used for that.
Well, they have that functionality with tablets already, where the tablet player can come in as a drone and that. So whether or not the HoloLens will add anything to that is doubtful, really.
I think virtual reality and augmented reality have tremendous potential for horror games. I've got a Google Cardboard myself, in terms of a virtual reality visor, and the horror experiences on that, such as Sisters and Black Mass, are very, very effective indeed.
I'm just skeptical about HoloLens, and we haven't a clue how much it's going to cost. It's probably going to be stupidly expensive. So,
well, I was talking to somebody who has been part of like the development cycle of this, and they said that their big aim is to release it under £300, which if they can do that, that'd be pretty incredible. Yeah.
Not in Microsoft's hands, though, because you look at going back to the controller, the Elite controller, that's £130.
Mm.
So that's, I don't think, and whenever they get round to releasing the Kinect, the Xbox One Kinect on its own, officially then, because you can buy it on its own.
Yeah.
If you go to somewhere like eBay or the shops, the place where I work, we sell it on its own.
Yeah.
But yeah, when they officially release that, they're probably going to charge some like 80, 90 quid for that on its own. So Microsoft have a tendency to release things quite expensive.
Yeah, but then you've also got the fact that this is a time when there are a lot of VR and AR headsets on the way. You've got the Galaxy Gear, you've got the Steam VR, you've got Oculus. If they want to make kind of gaining ground on this, they need to get it to as many people as possible. And if you're selling this to businesses, like Joe was saying, if you want this for engineering works and stuff like that, you've got that bigger range. You don't have to have a high price because you can then sell quantity. So if you've got an engineering plant with like 20 people all using these headsets, well, you've sold 20. But this isn't just a consumer item, so the price can come down as a direct result. But also, it's going to need a hefty machine to connect to. So while the Oculus Rift will work with Xbox One, there's no guarantees yet that the HoloLens will. So if you need to have a £1,200 PC, say, to really run this well, they're going to have to offset a gain for that thing. So I think the £300 is reasonable. For a holographic display, it's not like, we're not talking $1 million technology. It's just a case of make that consumer friendly as well as retail, as well as kind of industry friendly.
I'm not seeing virtual reality gaming as ever taking off in the mainstream myself. All of even the virtual reality games I've got that I enjoy, I just get drunk and play them for 5 minutes and go, whoa, that was a bit of a laugh, and that's it really.
Yeah, I think we're going to find like almost like better than life bars from Red Dwarf. I think we're going to see that where you get a kind of a whole rig of VR systems, so you can go and have a half-hour experience, and that's that. You don't have to buy the kit because you can just go to a place that does it. It's like Quasar Centres. You can buy stuff that allows you to run around on grass outside your house, but most people buy them and then chuck them in a cupboard because it's more fun to go to a place where there's a smoke machine and lasers.
It's like if you could getting drunk is good, but it's like if you had to be drunk all the time, and after a while you just feel sick and get tired of it.
And the final thing that Microsoft showed off was, Gears of War Ultimate Edition, but also Gears 4. They showed off in-game of that, and again, it's, for me anyway, it's the same thing, that the same reaction I had with Halo 5 Guardians. Another Gears game. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It looked more like a Resident Evil game than a Gears game, which I could really dig. It had a kind of more being hunted and a bit of a gothic feel, and exploring an old building, which is far less of the manly men with chainsaw guns running around and cutting everything in half. And it's not Gears of War either. They've got rid of the war bit, so it's just Gears 4.
What's it powered by, Bouncy?
What, Gears 4?
Yeah.
I would imagine it's the new version of the Unreal Engine, one would assume.
Because I would imagine that the coal train runs on whole grain.
He's not in it, though.
Well, we didn't see him.
What's the point of buying it, then?
Because
you can't have a Gears without the coal train.
Yes, you can. You can just have it. They still have the cardboard standee because his cereal bar has been somewhere else. That'll be fine.
What are they going to do? Put Baird in it?
No, from the look of it, it's a completely new story, completely new setting, maybe even a completely new planet, but it's just...
So it's not going to be about Marcus Phoenix and his best friend anymore?
No, because there's no war anymore. It's not. They've taken that out of the title completely. It's now just the Gears 4, which made me laugh when loads of people kept calling it Gears of War 4. And it's like, well, the title says Gears 4. There isn't the words of war there at all. And yet, you just can't let it go, can you? It's like those people that call everything the wrong name.
I think they've done that because it just wouldn't have tripped off the tongue. Gears of War. War. Sounds like a fussy gourmand in a restaurant. Garçon, like War.
Your
edition from Channel 4.
War 4, yes. Yeah, you should patent that, Stuart. It was very well done.
By the way, the Ultimate Edition will be on PC as well. It was one of the things that came out of the PC Gamer Conference.
Sorry, I'm not after you. I just watched Mechagodzilla completely jump over Godzilla's head. It was amazing. Nice. The Ultimate Edition beta is very good. It was reminded me of how good Gears games were before I got stuck into floating around the world in Destiny. But also, I was playing with people who'd clearly never played a Gears of War game before because they didn't know you could throw grenades or change your guns using the D-pad or run by holding the A button. So I had to teach a load of 15, 16-year-old kids how to play Gears of War, which wasn't much fun, but...
Have we lost him for good this time?
No, I think his mic just cut out again.
Okay. I must say that Gears of War does look more...
Oh, he's not.
It looks thematically closer to the old games. I always looked at Gears of War, the early stuff, as being quite survival horror-y in theme. Like the section where you have to keep to the light I remember being genuinely bothered by that. And the E3 stuff does look as worrying potentially as that used to be, which I think is a good thing because there's bugger all good horror games anymore. Doubly so now that they've taken Silent Hill out behind the shed and put both barrels against the old girl's forehead.
There are a few horror games coming out there which I'm interested in, but we need to move things on. We've been on this for 90 minutes, and we're still just moving.
You're the one that planned this out, Stuart. You're the host.
I know. I did say we were trying to go on for 2 hours. That's not going to happen. We knew that would never happen. So we'll just steamroll through EA because I think they had a stupidly boring press conference again.
It was
better than Nintendo's.
It was Bumbles. Yeah. Moving on.
It was one of those things that, as somebody that hasn't slept properly since this whole thing started, because I tried to watch everything live, it did everything it could to put me to sleep. and that was quite a good feat in itself. I've kind of felt like I should have recorded it so that on those nights where insomnia strikes, I don't need to pick up the night on. I can just play the E3 conference and go, hey, look, here's this. Here's how this skeleton works in this character, and we're going to talk for 20 minutes about how we've made this like basketball player look like really good.
You should
But he
try
doesn't look
pass.
great.
You didn't go to sleep, did you, Bouncy? You passed out in terror after seeing a Muppet Reggie Fils-Aimé. Ladies, I have noticed that my Wi-Fi is fluctuating quite badly, and I must go see to the router to make sure that the call doesn't drop and kill the show completely. So do talk amongst yourselves, or, just snipe spitefully about me behind my back while I'm gone.
Okay. EA kicked off with Mass Effect Andromeda, which is the new Mass Effect game. I'm a big Mass Effect fan. I'm waiting to see gameplay of it, proper in-game gameplay of it.
Yeah.
So I'm actually starting off with something that I can't wait for. So I want to play another Mass Effect game.
Yeah, it's one of those where I just wish it showed more than what it did. It just didn't have enough there, because it's going to be great, but why
Just basically let us know it existed.
Yeah, but we knew it existed. They've been showing concept art for over a year. We knew it existed. I just wanted to see something more than just what was essentially half of it was just a slideshow of potential environments. That's not how to make a trailer. That's somebody's holiday photos.
True. Need for Speed, the new Need for Speed game, which is just going to be called Need for Speed. It's set in a place called Ventura Bay, out November the 3rd. It looks like a
4
Need for
times
Speed
bigger
game.
than Rivals, probably 8 times more boring.
I just when I was watching it, the way the car was actually turning around the corner, the camera was actually zooming in straight onto the car, and you were very up close to it, and it was turning around the corner. And I was thinking to myself, that looks really bad. It reminds me of Ridge Racer.
Yeah.
That game. Trackmania was the one that brought me back to Ridge Racer. I can't remember which show it was highlighted on.
Ubisoft.
Ubisoft, yeah, it was ported over from PC. But yeah, that I was looking at it going, I feel seasick. I haven't felt like this since the first F-Zero.
Yeah, so Need for Speed. They took a break off last year to make a new Need for Speed game. Does it look like they've taken 2 years to make this game? Probably not. But
It
we'll
does
wait
look
for
like
it
they
to come out.
just reskinned 4 and made everything slightly longer.
Yeah. Star Wars: The Old Republic, Knights of the Fallen Empire. Really long title as well. Coming out in October. We'll add new story elements, characters, and be free to everybody who's subscribed to Star Wars: The Knights of the Old Star Wars: The Old Republic. Which is there anybody who's out there who subscribes to that? Considering that it is free to play, isn't it?
There were people who had subscribed and then they kind of got premiumized when it went free. But yeah, I mean,
It's free to play to a certain level, basically.
Yeah, that's it. And I just think it's one of those things which is a real shame, because the Star Wars Battlefront stuff showed what you can do well with Star Wars, but the Old Republic stuff just never really... I tried it, it just didn't feel like either a Knights of the Old Republic game or a good Star Wars kind of MMO. It just sort of sat in the middle. But it was always going to be popular, but they seem to just keep chucking content at it as if to say, hey, it's still here, and it's never going to make a difference. If
this expansion does what they said it was going to do, which is be like the original Knights of the Republic games, different conversation choices, stuff like that, and I'm going to hold off until the people I know who play it regularly.
Yeah, I just wish
judgment,
they'd make a new Knights of the Old Republic game and stop fannying around with MMOs.
I would love to see that. And next up might be my game of the show. Just because it was so simple to look at, it reminded me of Limbo. But the music, I fell in love with the music because it's very Ghibli-esque. But that's Unravel. And that's a game where you play the little yarn character. It's a puzzle platform game, and you can unravel yourself to traverse across the world. And I loved the look of that game. I rewatched the trailer before starting to this, and the music is so soothing, and the game just looks so simple, but also it could end up having frustrating elements to it as well. And
yeah, there's it's another one of those really good Scandinavian video games that we seem to be seeing more and more of. I was reading an interview of a guy who played it and was talking to the dev team, and he said that some players found it incredibly frustrating because you have to sometimes go back and untie yourself from areas because you will run out of yarn before the end of the stage. So it said they didn't want to have a time limit, so they put a finite amount of yarn. So if you make too many mistakes, you will never be able to finish that level without backtracking across it all, which I thought was a really cool idea, but they were complaining as if that was too much of a difficulty spike. I just think it's better than a time limit because it allows you an option of going back and unraveling it, work out where you made a mistake and carrying on.
Kind of like moving your own checkpoint along.
Yeah, basically, and that management is part of it. And they also said that the whole point of the yarn was the further you are away from the people who you need, the more you're unraveling, which is a nice little kind of metaphor thing. All the stages are based on areas in Sweden that they know. Yeah, it's a glorious game. It's in my top 5 of the show for definite. And again, it's another reason for me to want a PS4.
Yeah, I just loved it, and I'm glad that I just decided to stick with the PlayStation 4 because it was sort of like a toss-up of a coin whether to keep the Xbox One or PlayStation 4. I decided to keep the PlayStation 4 because it was last year Sony were more championing the indie stuff last year. This year Microsoft is trying to get in on the act with all the stuff that they showed off, but it's just I gravitated towards that, and this game made me glad that I kept it because I do love the look of it. It's definitely a game I'm going to be playing and buying. They showed off Plants vs Zombies Garden Warfare 2, which we've already talked about. And then a lot of EA Sports games. We expected that. So new NHL, Madden, and FIFA.
Ladies and FIFA.
Yeah, yay. So what? It's not like backwards thinking in a way. They're saying, it's only now that we're able to actually put females in FIFA. No, what limited you before? There's nothing stopping you from actually doing that. It's just a bad excuse to have.
It's one of the things I just wish they'd done is gone, right, we've expanded the game to include more leagues. Full stop. Leave it at that. Like, it doesn't matter whether it's women's league or male league, but instead they're sort of playing in this post-Gamergate society. Like, look, we've got women in here because we're equality. And what happened? Almost immediately, people were photoshopping the images of the females onto kitchens and going FIFA 16 Kitchen Edition. And you just think, brilliant. The really is the wrong crowd to try and have some degree of equality in gaming.
It's a start for EA Sports. But
again, like I said, for me, the excitement about it is it's more a truer reflection of world football today. That's the only reason it's in there, or it should be in there. It shouldn't have anything to do with the fact that it's we're adding females. It's the female World Cup is getting bigger and bigger every year. Like, it should be reflected in that game, and now it is, so that's great.
Yeah, it is great, but it should have happened years ago rather than now.
Did you see the NBA Game Face app where you can take a picture?
Yeah, I was tuning out a lot when they were yabbering on about all their sports stuff, and I was only listening in the background about all that kind of stuff.
You can put any face you want on any player.
Yeah, that's going to go badly with me. Every time they do that, it doesn't. Cause...
Uh-oh.
Yep, I think he's disappeared again. Or mic problem again. Connection problem again, maybe. It's probably that, but yeah, for me, I wonder if he has the same problem with me with the face mapping stuff when I played Rainbow Six Vegas, and you were able to actually do that with the really bad camera for the Xbox 360. I looked like a burn victim. So... I'm hoping it's not going to be like that, but I'm probably not going to try it anyway.
It generally looks bad as well, but I just see the satire potential in having that ability there.
Yeah. It'd
be alright if you could use photos of Alan Sugar and have like celebrity basketballs, like NBA Jam back in the day when they had Bill Clinton. I would quite like to have aged businessmen of the UK, Richard Branson, Alan Sugar, a whole basketball team. Like, they'd pump themselves full of steroids and join the NBA. That'd be great.
Donald Trump and I don't know.
Yeah, he could be the other team, couldn't he?
Yeah.
Or he could be like the British government versus the EU government. So you could have Angela Merkel against David Cameron's team. It'd be brilliant. Boris Johnson as goal defender. That's netball, isn't it? Not basketball.
Yeah, they brought Pellier out for a 10-minute interview, which made it feel like it was a chat show rather than a conference. which was a bit of a pointless thing to do.
Yeah, and Pele, the footballer who really speaks to the younger players. There's
He
a lot.
actually did say at one point, "I'll have to explain to the younger players."
Yeah, I was watching the Twitch feed, and the comments were like, "Who's that? Who's that old guy?" And they were like, "That's Pele." Yeah, who's that? Pele? What? Who is it? But they couldn't have found a I mean, obviously, his inclusion in the game is somewhat relevant, somewhat important to some people. But it did surprise me. Like, of all the players you could have pulled out, that I would have preferred the reanimated corpse of George Best than seeing Pele. And I don't just mean at that conference. I just mean in general. I would love to see that be a thing. But yeah, it was a very odd. It was like kind of.
Somewhere there's an indie game company listening to you.
There's always an indie game company listening to me.
Mirror's Edge Catalyst.
Created some of the worst games known to man. Yeah, looks very, very good. Very pretty.
Yeah, I'm a big Mirror's Edge fan. It's been a long time since we've getting a follow-up, or they've said this is not a sequel. This is the origin story of Faith, but I don't care as long as I can play more Mirror's Edge.
Yeah. And it's open world, so that's even better.
That's all I care about. More Mirror's Edge, which is a good thing. And they ended off their press conference, obviously, with Star Wars Battlefront.
Oh, so shiny.
Yeah, we know, me and Jerry know somebody who's probably going to be all over this. Well, two people who host Following the Nerd. They're just probably going out to buy a PlayStation 4 just to play this game. So
yeah.
They'll absolutely love this. But yeah, it looks shiny, it looks entertaining enough.
The notion of being able to fight both sides of the Battle of Hoth, sold. You don't even bother with the rest of it. Like $30, I'll just buy that bit.
Yeah, the only thing that worries me is it's all fine and well when people can fly the TIE fighters and the AT-ATs and drive AT-ATs and fly associates, but any experience of any Battlefield game I've ever played means that half the X-Wings are never going to leave the hangar before they explode. So I really want to have a mode where I can just watch people who play the game really well, so I can see those battle stages. I have a theatre mode so I can watch it done well, because all I'm going to be doing is running around, constantly standing still and watching the gameplay, never contributing to a team, because that game looked beautiful. And I don't want to fight. I just want to run around and be a war photographer. Let me be that. I'd be great with that.
Yep, and Andy in the live chat says he got his other half of PlayStation 4 for Christmas and now it's paying off for him. Yeah, the chances of you being able to actually get hold of the console is probably zero. And that was it for EA's. On to Ubisoft's, and yeah, what a way to start their press conference with the new South Park game, South Park Fractured But Whole, which I absolutely love that title.
Yes.
It's sort of like, it's very South Park. It is the childish humour that South Park is brilliant at, and if you're a fan of South Park, you will laugh at silly little jokes like that.
And having Coon and Friends as well as the big storyline. That is just incredible to have as a game of.
And I'm a big South Park fan, and only Ubisoft could actually get away with not only releasing the game, making the game, but also bringing out Matt Stone and Trey Parker, because you can just imagine if they appeared at Nintendo's press conference or at somebody like a press conference like that, that would just not be allowed, because Trey Parker came on and he was on stage for about 5 seconds and then he dropped the F-bomb straight away.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's what Ubisoft do, isn't it? They're the edgy ones. They're the cool kids of E3. They always have been. They always have people that are swearing and saying, "Hey, we're going to talk to you like you talk to people when you play games." But yeah, I really appreciate that, and I loved there was an interview with Matt Stone, because after Sticker, they said they were never going to make a video game ever again. And then they said, "Why did you do it?" And he went, "Well, when we finished Stick of Truth, we realised that we knew how to make a really good video game, and then I quite liked the idea of making another one." So I'm very excited for Fractured But Whole.
I love that title. I just love it. It makes me giggle like a little school kid every single time I see it and read it. They showed off a new IP straight after that called For Honor, an action game where it's co-op 4-on-4 battles. For me, it looks a little bit mixture between Dynasty Warriors with little bits of Assassin's Creed in there and a few other games like that. And they brought this guy out with a cane and a big, huge, massive beard.
Right. I love this whole idea. There's no magic. There's no real gimmick. You're coming out basically. You can choose Viking warrior, knight, samurai, whatever. You come out as one of those, proper sword-on-sword combat, and you basically have at each other. Full stop. No magic, no mystical potions, anything like that. It's hack and slash, medieval battlefield. Last man standing wins. For me, that was just awesome to see. The only thing is, I'd hope to bring in more swords, more warriors kind of that era from different places, like the Chinese guys, things like that.
Yeah. When I watched it, the first thing that came to my head was that Deadliest Warriors.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
TV show, and then they had such an awful game based on that, and I just thought, this is the game that would have been based on that if that had been a more serious TV show. Just like, let's do historical accuracy somewhat better. I just wish more games like that came out for the Wii, because they never really got close. They had the Red Steel stuff, and they had like the Wii Sports Island, or Wii Sports Resort rather, where you had sort of like the foam swordy things. But yeah, sword fighting in games is rarely used, but when it is, it can be brilliant, and in that case, it looks stunning.
Yeah, it looks interesting enough, and there was before we started this show, I was watching GameSpot's coverage E3 Day. Two of their coverage, and they had this game on there, and they were showing off a little bit more of how the game works and how the one-on-one fights works. The fact that there's fighting going on in the background while you're doing a one-on-one fight with another bad guy. So I like that kind of thing, that there is still the world around you still going on with the battles, and the battles are still ongoing, and you're just a small little pocket in there, and then you can move on to the next big thing that you have to do straight after you fight. So.
And your fights aren't isolated either. So if you're fighting one guy, one of your mates can finish off his guy, turn around and attack the same guy, so you can end up... Or you can lead the other guy back a bit, which happened in the gameplay demo, which is run in, swing at him, he comes after you, and you lead him into an ambush where your two mates are waiting.
Yeah, so it was an interesting game to show off, and then they went into expansion territory with two interesting expansions. One for the crew, which called Wild Run, which reminded me a lot of the MotorStorm. It reminded me a lot of MotorStorm on PlayStation 3, which is not a bad thing. It looked okay if you've got the crew. Don't know how many people actually bought the crew, but if you've got it, then the expansion looks fine enough. But the weirdest thing that they showed, by far, even more weirder than South Park Fractured But Whole, was the Trials Fusion add-on. Awesome level max.
Really annoyed with that, because it started with the horse like galloping and all of that, and in my head that looked like Death's horse from Darksiders. And I thought, for a brief second, I thought they've resurrected Darksiders 3 somehow. And
ladies, I have returned.
But then they showed off a cat on a fire-breathing unicorn, and it was Trials. It was DLC for Trials.
I was stunned. I still use it when people are discussing on Twitter. It's like I keep on posting up the trailer going, remember, this is a thing you have actually seen.
Yeah, and it's for a game where you control a bike, where you do stunts and go over a course. It's for a bike game.
Why was the cat shooting things?
Yeah, okay, fine. I'll clear it just to see what it looks like. Something interesting. It reminds me of the unicorn weapon in Red Faction, which farts out rainbows. So it's just a weird thing to have in Red Faction, and so now you're going to have a cat riding a fire-breathing unicorn in Trials.
And shooting at you.
Yeah, and shooting at you. It's just... And probably doing tricks as well. So, okay. They moved on to Tom Clancy's The Division, which they showed off some new gameplay, and the fact that you can betray people in your group if you want to. If you want a bigger cut of what you're aiming for, you can betray your friends around you, or you need to find the betrayer in your group. It's more of The Division. It looks fine. It looks good.
Yeah, it was... the thing that I was basically waiting for the release date for it. Because
March 8th, 2016.
Yes, which they left to the very last second. I was like, yes, finally, that's all I needed to know. All they actually needed to do was go, The Division, release date. Because I've seen so much of the game at this point that it's just kind of like, I'm sold, can I get my hands on it now?
We're just hoping it's not going to be like another Watch Dogs.
I don't think it can be.
We'll see when the Division comes out next year on March 8th, 2016. And then after that, they had a new Anno game. Anybody played any of the Anno games?
No.
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 No, well, that's a no all around.
It looked nice.
Yeah,
Apologies for
strategy.
my absence, by the way. I have relatives in the building who are trying to use the same router to wirelessly watch Jurassic World, and I had to set up a separate network for them to watch that upon. Otherwise, I would have had an elderly relative coming through and gone, bloody Wi-Fi's gone out, and resetting the router and destroying the show. But we'll be okay.
Yeah, but I know if you're a strategy fan, then and you know the games, then yeah,
There's
you've got
that.
I know for you. Yeah, there is that. And then they showed off Just Dance 2016 and wheeled out the annoying Jason Derulo who couldn't hit a note and forgot the words to his own song, so he decided to just wheel for a couple of minutes. Which, yeah, that's Just Dance for you. And then they thought, oh, we'll have this Just Dance Unlimited stuff where we're going to push new songs, new dances for you for the Wii U, PS4 and Xbox One. And they did actually, strangely, announce Just Dance for the Wii. So they're still making Wii games. Which
Well,
is
good for
interesting.
them.
I'm sure they
Yeah.
didn't. The mic didn't cut out when they said you.
Nope, they did say a Wii. It Just Dance 2016 is coming out on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, everything.
Well, I suppose the
And it is
Wii
coming-
still has a large install base, so there's still
Yeah,
a base for it.
I think all we need to say on that is bless.
But Wii games work on the Wii U, so what's the point? Yeah, so Rainbow Six Siege shown off. They wheeled out another person on the stage in the form of Angela Bassett, and the fact that she plays the role of Six, so she is the Six in the Rainbow Six thing. Close combat, all the kind of stuff that was seen from Rainbow Six before. If you get it is another one of those games where if you've got a few friends, then yeah, perfectly. It's perfect for that.
And can I say a personal thank you to everybody who comes from Halo to playing Rainbow Six and does things like leaving cover to teabag their kills. It's tremendously entertaining.
Yeah, and
For the
those are the
short-
idiots that get killed straight away right at the start. I love that kind of that thing with Rainbow Six games that it's you can get killed very quickly, and these idiots who play games like Call of Duty think that they can bring that kind of play over into Rainbow Six. Yeah, that's not going to be the case.
Do you remember, Stu, how many times when we used to play Rainbow Six, the first thing I'd ever do was throw a grenade at my own feet because I'd forget which button was run?
Yep, pretty
That's
much.
that's the one thing I still do, even now. I get cold shakes when I think about Rainbow Six because I just think how many times all that my team would hear is, I'm really sorry, and then I'd explode, and that'd be it for me. Just
And
great.
that's the reason why we're not playing Rainbow Six Siege together.
Reminds me of those happy days when I came from Monster Hunter straight from games like God of War and ended up getting mashed a hell of a lot.
Okay.
No, you can continue. Go on.
Trackmania. Well, we mentioned Trackmania a little while back. It's come to consoles. It's Trackmania. It's very much like
Arcade racing goodness.
yeah, build up your own tracks. You can press a button; it'll automatically create a track for you if you want to. If you want to do that as well. So
200
Yeah.
basic tracks, and then you can mod everything to high heaven. But
yeah,
it looks like a
fine.
bit of fun, basically. It doesn't look like something I'm going to spend a lot of time playing, but it looks like something with the multiplayer. It does look like something when you have a few friends around after the pub, etc. Might be something to put on.
or it's that kind of thing that a few of these YouTube channels, these Let's Play ones or whatever, they like to just play like a specific game and play like tracks that people have created. For example, as Hat Films, they do that with Trials, so they play levels that people have created in Trials, and so something like that might be entertaining to watch, where they just group together like 7 of them, and you just see what kind of thing that people have created. So there's that. They brought out Assassin's Creed Syndicate, which we've already talked about in the Xbox stuff. And
Oh,
they
did
closed off-
I miss Assassin's Creed?
pretty much, but it's
Oh,
more
score.
Assassin's Creed.
Assassin's Creed,
Fantastic.
Story and Batman.
I'm off the hook for that. Not only did I miss the Assassin's Creed bit, but I found out at the same time that I have a bag of mini Kievs in the freezer that I've forgotten about. It's everything's coming up, Dalek.
Yep, it is. And they closed off their press conference with a new Ghost Recon game, Ghost Recon Wildlands.
That's so good.
Yeah.
Never played a Ghost Recon game.
Well, you will definitely be playing this one because it definitely
I
looks
won't.
so good.
This one looked like it more in common. I don't know if you ever played Mercenaries when it was out. That kind of open sandbox, wandering targets, just...
That just are the two that I've drawn comparisons to previously.
Yeah, that was the games that popped into my head when I saw this. It's just when the trailer was going through and they were showing off what you can do in the world, and then the world was expansive and it went out to the world map and you saw loads of different people on the world map and all that stuff. It was just, yep.
Yeah.
I mean,
But why is Bouncy making that specific comparison? Just cause.
that's sad. It's just sad. Sony. We'll move on to Sony then. Yep, The Last Guardian, the game that was supposed to be released on PlayStation 3. It was shown off, I think, as early as 2006. And now the game is supposedly coming out in 2016, 10 years after it was originally shown off. And it looks like it was made 10 years ago.
No,
It looks...
they didn't actually say when in 2016. They just said 2016.
Which is probably when they're going to show another trailer with some gameplay in it, and they'll say 2017.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah, so yeah, it's just it looks fine, but it doesn't look as the big spectacle as it has looked.
Who cares, really? I mean, this isn't about the game. This is about the shift in what people are doing these days with E3. I mean, E3's got a big problem with relevance, and it's come with there's two root causes. The first root cause is that it started off with print journalism going out of style, because when I was a kid, there were video game magazines, and it was very difficult and very costly to start a video game magazine. So there was a certain cachet to being a writer for one. And then websites started up, and, websites were all right too, but there was still at least a barrier. And now everybody, literally everybody, can put out their own video game opinion-related product, which is evidenced by us even being here. That the currency of trust has utterly shifted from faceless organizations and these big brands such as Eurogamer and Polygon to people that you feel that you can have a relationship with, like, which is to say YouTubers like Total Biscuit, PewDiePie, the Super Best Friends, the Game Grumps, whoever you decide to go to. They're like it's like sitting in a room with a couple of mates and listening to them tell you what they think of a game, and you know they like this game, and this game, so you can trust their opinion on what they're going to say. So, and E3 has always been this temple, this sort of like giant burnt offering to the relevance of the video game journalist, which is really going down the toilet. And they've vitally had to find new ways in which to engage the audience this year. And what Sony has done has been to say, hey, this game that you've been crying tears of blood over not getting for the last several decades? Well, we're just going to make it. Just like that. There you go. And the reaction was so positive that you could barely hear Layden a couple of announcements in over the roar of the crowd.
Yeah, we'll get on to a couple right at the end of the Sony stuff, because I deliberately put that at the end of it. But yeah, they moved on to Street Fighter V, showing off Cammy and Birdie. They're going to be part of Street Fighter V as exclusive for PlayStation 4 on consoles, PC. It's going to be released on as well, so it's sort of a coup for Sony to have Street Fighter V beat 'em up wise, because I don't think they've got anything else beat 'em up wise exclusive. So yeah, I think they were trying to go up against Killer Instinct from Xbox. So
Tekken?
There hasn't been a Tekken game for a while, and Tekken is both on Xbox One, isn't it?
There's still Street Fighter X Tekken or Tekken X Street Fighter. One of those two is still in the works.
There's a new Guilty Gear out, if anyone's interested. No, nobody's interested but me.
No, No Man's Sky. Anybody interested?
Yep.
Yeah.
Massively.
Yeah,
Because it's
same
well,
here.
what, it's Hello Games, who have made one of the greatest motorcycle platform Mario hybrids ever, making a procedurally generated universe with space giraffes, but not Space Giraffe with Jeff Minter. I just somebody would play it and said, "Oh, all the planets look a little bit the same." So, well, yeah, that's not a problem because you'll find a different one at some point. It just seemed really bizarre that everybody's now they know more about it. Suddenly they found something to criticise. Like before, it's like, "Oh, that's very exciting." Then when they finally find out what your aim is, like, I don't want to gather resources. I don't want to trade. I don't want to upgrade my equipment or buy a bigger ship. Like, well, what sort of game are you expecting then? Surely that's the only thing you would want to do in a giant space simulation thing. But there you go. People are stupid. They don't know what they want.
At this
I
point, I
don't-
think it's got a hype problem where like it's been hyped so much. At this point, there's no way it can live up to that, and Sony are kind of contributing to that to a degree as well. They're just hyping and hyping and hyping, and it's like it's basically still the same indie game it was.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't care. I was sold as soon as I saw the game. I don't care what else they show of the game. I'm buying it day one. I don't buy a lot of games now day one, but that is definitely at the top of my list. I've been
Be on
eager to
PC
hear
day
it.
one as well.
Yeah, so my PC, I don't think will be able to handle it. But that's the whole reason why I've got a PlayStation 4. So I'm buying it day one, and yeah, I love the look of the game. I'm sold on that. Medium Molecules, new game. The people who created Little Big Planet is another interesting game. It's called Dreams, which, if you can call it a game, it's very much in the guise of things like Journey.
Yeah, and they said, didn't they? If you can dream, you can do it in this game. I don't want to put what I dream in a game.
Yeah.
Who was it that said, I want to play a game that isn't a game?
The
That
guy
was a
who
quote.
presented this.
That was a quote that came out of this year's E3.
I think it was the guy who presented Dreams.
Oh,
Oh, no,
there we
it
go
wasn't.
then.
No, it wasn't. Wait.
Oh, you just played with my feelings now. I thought for
I
a
did.
second that I was going to be relevant instead of
I can
talking
actually
about
see
Dark
that,
Souls.
but I can't remember what game it was. It seemed remarkably silly for what it was as well.
Okay, well let's crack on then.
Yeah, but yeah, I like the look of that one. Again, with the indie games. I think the indie games stole the show this year. But Dreams looks really good. Expansion for Destiny. The new big expansion for Destiny out in September, did this year? September, October?
Yeah, September. The Taken King, which should be Liam Neeson again, but it isn't.
I just want to say that when I first started listening to the movie show, I had not been to the cinema for a couple of years, and I wasn't aware of any current movies. And Stuart kept talking about Taken, and he kept saying, Tekken 2. They made a film, Tekken 2. And this isn't me making fun of Stuart's accent. It's just, I honestly thought, bloody hell, have they made another Tekken movie? I thought the first one didn't do very well.
Taken 2.
Tekken.
And that Tekken movie was terrible.
Yeah.
Tekken was terrible and Taken was terrible. But
Terrible,
Okay.
yep, 2.
it was terrible too, yes.
Yes.
That too was terrible.
Devolver Digital. There
I
was
see
a
what
bundle
you did
included
there.
4 games which that all look very similar to each other. So they all had the same kind of theme. Looks like Hotline Miami, things like that. Yeah, they look fine. If you like that kind of thing, that kind of stuff is for you. The new cinematic trailer for Batman Arkham Knight, which is out next week. You've just put up something on Twitter regarding Arkham Knight, haven't you?
Yeah, the game exclusive Batmobile edition has now had all its orders cancelled as of today. Staff were told today because apparently the Batmobile isn't of sufficient quality. Which I think it was $179.99 this edition. So everybody who's pre-ordered that version is now going to find out a week before release that they can't actually have it, and also that there's a very high likelihood of them not being able to get a limited edition version either because they're pretty much all sold out. So, well done, game. 10 points to Gryffindor.
I think that Warner Brothers are in danger of becoming a punchline to DLC-related jokes. In the same, like the way you describe a situation and then say, the aristocrats. It's going to be like that, but Warner Brothers.
Yeah, they're terrible. I've cancelled my pre-order for Arkham Knight based on how much they want for the season pass and everything else, which is disappointing because it's one of my favourite series, but I just cannot support that move. Mortal Kombat was bad enough charging like 30 quid just for 4 extra characters and some skins, but to basically say, okay, there's going to be all this content, and knowing there's going to be a Game of the Year edition, because there always is for the Batman series, I shall just wait. I'll borrow it off a friend if I have to, but I'm not going to give him any money for it.
Yeah, it's
Well, the problem
Scarecrow
is
DLC.
industry.
Is it PS4 exclusive, the Scarecrow DLC?
Yes, yeah.
I don't know. I think a lot of people I know are all basically going, well, I'm just going to wait for the Game of the Year edition.
Yeah.
Yeah, the industry is arse backwards at the moment. I mean, I talked about this on the Holocaust last month, I think it was, where I've got a friend who's a manager at SquareSoft, and he basically says that the whole thing is the whole AAA thing is the model is balancing on a knife at the moment, because in the past 20 years we've seen game costs go up to like tens of millions per project, but the full price game price has never really changed since the SNES era. It's always stuck to about 40 quid or so as an average for the new AAA titles. So the costs are just spiraling out of control, and the profits are going down and down and down, to the point where if you don't get those week one sales, then any games that are sold after that basically do not exist in terms of the bottom line. It would help a great deal if companies could just say, instead of "we're not making this game because we don't think it will be profitable," to just say, "Tell you what, give us the money for this project up front, and then we'll make it." I wonder if anyone will do that. Let's wait and see.
Yeah.
That was a clever reference to what we're going to cover next.
Which is Black Ops 3.
God.
Yeah.
There's a fairly wide interpretation of next at work here.
Yeah, Black Ops 3, the obvious of the obvious. When all the way back at the start of this show here, when we were talking about Halo on the Xbox One, and the fact that Microsoft normally should start off their press conference with Call of Duty game, and when that wasn't shown, people said, yep, it's on the PlayStation 4, it's Sony stuff, it's going to be the DLC, it'll probably be timed exclusive on there, the beta will be on there. Yep, that's exactly what Sony did.
Every Call of Duty Black Ops game should start with George Michael going, "Do-do da God blobs. Do-do da God blobs."
Okay.
He can't do that because he's been signed up for the new Mirror's Edge game, because you gotta be a faith.
Yes.
Disney Infinity 3.0, timed exclusive on some of the Star Wars stuff.
I would be all up-ons if it weren't for the existence of the Lego thing that's coming out. Scooby-Doo, Back to the Future, and Portal in the same game. Oh, and Peter Capaldi, Doctor Who as well. Yeah. So,
and Ghostbusters.
They can just do one with that.
The only thing that excites me about Disney Infinity 3.0 is the new George Michael DLC, the Club Tropicana level pack.
Please stop.
Will drinks be DLC, or will they be free?
CD Projekt Red are getting on board, so for the first 21 drinks will be free.
Will it be massively multiplayer, or will it be good when it's one-on-one?
It will be good when it's one-on-one. Originally, it wasn't going to be Club Tropicana related, but basically the big orange juice company picked up where Cadbury's dropped down with the Careless Whisper DLC.
Ah, nice.
Oh,
Bouncy.
I need to reel this in. Yeah,
you're just too funky for me.
Killzone developer Guerrilla showed off their new game called Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looks interesting.
Hooray for the random word generator.
It's I read a load of people like immediately say this, going, well, it looks really good, but it's the people who made Killzone Shadowfall, and that was as shallow as a puddle on a summer's day. And then somebody underneath just went, well, it's written by the guy who wrote Fallout New Vegas, and a lot of the dev team have come from The Witcher 3. And then suddenly these people going, yeah, this game is brilliant. I want to play this game. So when you look at it, it looks like The Witcher a little bit. And I'm very excited. I like the idea of future world cave people as well.
Seem to sit somewhere between Turok and Tomb Raider.
With a bit of Enslaved as well, I thought.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Is that the robot Monster Hunter style thing that they've got going on?
Pretty much.
Yeah. I've seen bits of that. It looks intriguing.
Hawkeye style.
Hey,
robots with bows and arrows.
Hey, Stuart, I tell you what. Did you know that on YouTube there's a Polish TV movie of The Witcher?
Yeah, I heard about that.
We need to get together sometime and do a Riff Tracks MST3K style commentary on that. I think they'd be down with that.
Oh dear.
They showed off. Well, I'll leave the Uncharted stuff to last, considering that was the last thing they showed off. But the two things that I was alluding to a little bit earlier on, says we'll leave it until then. First off, a remake for Final Fantasy VII, an actual remake.
I've always regarded Final Fantasy VII as sort of like the Atlas Shrugged of video games, in that it's objectively and measurably terrible in almost every way, but it's just so popular and so influential that you can't afford, to just sit back and not have an experience of it and not have an opinion on it. You've got to at least try to understand why it got under people's skins so much and why it had the effect that it did. I don't know if I would play it, but it's by no means a bad thing that it's going to be available to a new generation so that they can go back and see how terrible it is too.
When it came out originally, it was
awful.
It was still one of the best awful things there was at the time.
No, it came off the back of on PlayStation, yes, but how good are launch PlayStation 1 titles? It came off the back of 6 Final Fantasy games, and it was worse than all of them except for 2 on the NES, which remains one of the worst video games ever incepted.
The thing about it is, we started talking with people like myself who actually liked it, and we're talking about it, and then we went, wait. When they're remaking it, things like areas like Sector 6, there's all sorts of dodgy things happening. And there's there's elements to the game you're thinking, if they're remaking it, they should probably take that bit out.
Which bit was Sector 6? Sector 6? Sector 6. Remind us.
There was Gact, the bathhouse shenanigans.
Oh, I see. Yeah, the all of those bodybuilders calling each other Big Brother, which I presume was Anarchy in the original, which is a sort of like Japanese bodybuilder slang that's a lot of gay people use. Yeah, there wasn't anything lost in translation there, is what I am trying to get at. It is exactly as offensive in the Japanese original as it seems to be.
But yep, that's Final Fantasy VII, and the other one, Shenmue 3. It wasn't very much of an announcement of the game. It was an announcement of the Kickstarter, which at the moment is on just over $3 million. So it went past its $2 million goal within some 6 hours, 9 hours, something in that region there. It's got 38,980 backers.
And people are angry because they say that a company that can afford to fund the project shouldn't be asking for Kickstarter money. So let's talk about that.
Well, Sony has said they're going to get behind it, they're going to help them with it, and my guess is they were just doing this so they can see how many people were interested in the game itself. And
Sega have got to be breathing at this. Finally, it's a wave, because every announcement Sega have made online for this is roughly 2 years after Shenmue 2, every time they announce it, going, yeah, but where's Shenmue 3? this great new game. Yeah, but where's Shenmue 3? It's like first.
People make jokes about it, doesn't it? It's
Yeah.
like it's on a par with Half-Life Episode 3. It's sort of like, oh yeah, like that'll ever happen when Shenmue 3 is announced.
Yeah, and then it happened.
It's just, yeah,
I can't see anything
Sega.
bad about the situation. I really can't. It's it's going on what I was saying earlier about the imminent collapse of AAA. This is the solution, as far as I can see. If big companies say, "All right, everybody pile in with the pre-orders, and we'll make the game that you really, really want," and if people don't pile in with the pre-orders, then we will know for sure that the game will not be profitable, and you can shut up whining about it. The only downside is that Kickstarter, you're not accountable to anybody. But in the case of big companies, you are going to be accountable to your shareholders. I mean, we're looking at a year that's just passed in which, what was it that Assassin's Creed Unity wiped off the company's value? It was something like 10%, wasn't it? Bouncy, you're the numbers guy.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, they lost like 10% of their company for releasing a game that worked but was merely wonky. Now imagine what it would do to the share price if they took the pre-order money and just didn't deliver.
True. And there is an enforcement thing coming in on Kickstarter. The guys who messed up the Doom that came to Atlantic City Kickstarter have been fined. So there is an accountability thing starting to come into it, but you have to kind of mess up really badly for that to actually come.
So where does that leave Peter Molyneux?
I don't know. Where is he?
Dunno, Bouncy? Molyneux?
He's still at 12 cans. He's actually on Skype right now. I would add him to the call and ask him, but I think it would get him to take me off of Skype, and I like it when it pops up in the corner. My big concern with Shenmue is the amount they've asked for.
Shenmue.
Bearing in mind, the first one cost, 70 million? The second one, a little bit more than that. And they've asked for 2 million, which doesn't even cover localization. The stretch goals are ridiculous as well, because the stretch goals include localization or translation into different languages. All I hope is that, as you know, we sort of touched on, that the 2 million is a token gesture. That's like the proof of concept. And then Sony will plug the rest of the money in, because they have to. There's no way we will get the game we want on 2 million. 2 million doesn't even cover an advertising budget. It won't even pay the staff to develop a game. So I've got big concerns if that's what they're sort of pinning everything on. But I genuinely think that's why Sony had it at their conference, because they're going to be putting in the money for it.
Yeah. And Sony was probably the only ones who were interested in it, to be honest. So.
Well, they needed something because they've got bugger all coming out.
Yeah, and it is the Sega thing, isn't it? This is a company that's gone downhill just rapidly, and they're mainly concentrating on PC games and mobile games. Apart from the fact that they did announce a new Sonic game for the 3DS.
Yeah,
a new Sonic Boom game, Fire and Ice, I think it's called.
Yeah, it is. And do you know what? The only thing
God.
Sega have done well is hand their Sonic the Hedgehog official account to somebody who understands the internet. Because what you've got now is Sonic the Hedgehog tweeting pictures drawn by children have got to go faster, and retconning Sonic canon and saying, no, that game never happened, this didn't exist. I'm playing along. Yeah, internet tropes and everything are all coming through. It's an amazing Twitter account now. So it's a shame, really, it's then being followed up with an Olympics game with Mario and another sequel to, the sequel to one of the most critically derided Sonic games since 2006.
It's frustrating at the same time, though. It's like what I was saying about Nintendo earlier. When they do things that are this self-aware, it reveals that they do actually get it. They just don't care.
Yeah.
Everything that Sega does game-wise with Sonic makes me feel like Daniel Day-Lewis in Gangs of New York, where he's insulting Jim Broadbent. It's sort of like, I know your works. He's played by Sean Connery for some reason. I know your works. You are neither a squid nor a kid. So because you are lukewarm, I will spew you out of my mouth.
Okay.
Oh, dear.
And on Uncharted then, Uncharted was the game that they used to close out their press conference twice. Because it didn't work for the first time, and then they realised, their live demo wasn't going to work, so let's go to a demo that we shot earlier. So that was their plan, and so it played out. They decided to show a more explosive kind of set piece scene rather than what they showed previously regarding Uncharted, and it's more Uncharted, and I'm happy about that because I love the Uncharted games. I'm not going to buy the Uncharted collection at the end of the year because I've already played through them, and I to be honest, I don't want to play through them again, even though they are brilliant games, but I'll get the fourth one.
Did you not think, though, that car chase sequence was absolutely ridiculous and is going to be no fun to play whatsoever?
Yeah, it is that typical sort of like Halo thing, isn't it? Right at the end of Halo 1 and 2, where you've got to drive through places where the ground is collapsing, and if you make one false move, you've got to start it again.
Exactly. They must have rehearsed that so many times because they didn't get stuck on any bits of scenery. There was no points at which you felt like, oh, I don't know which way I'm going. They just managed to take every back street, go down every set of stairs, stop just in time to not fall in the hole where the excavator was working. And at no point did I think, I really look forward to this bit where I just drive wildly along the streets doing no combat whatsoever and not really playing a game at all. And yet loads of people were very excited, saying, oh, we're going to get to drive cars for the first time. Like, that's not driving a car. That's basically just pointing a car in a correct direction for 5 minutes.
Is Uncharted the one with Nathan Drake in?
Yes.
That's the one.
Yeah, somebody on Twitter said that they should just stop pretending that Uncharted has a story and just rebrand it as a game in which Nathan Drake is an urban terrorist who really hates fences.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. That is pretty fair. I mean, the combat side of it in the market was fantastic. The destruction of the cover and all that was what you'd expect. It's good to see Sully back. I really am looking forward to it. But
what about Mike?
No, I can't stand him. It's it's the one eye thing. I can't get over it. But
get this franchise away from me, you guys. Get that franchise away from me, you guys.
So I just want to see more of the actual game and not just a big chase sequence that didn't appeal to me at all. But I suppose if you're an Uncharted fan, you're going to buy it. You know what to expect. So perhaps showing something a bit different is a good idea. But I just thought it looked no fun whatsoever.
Yeah, I can get that as well from it. But I know there is going to be other elements to the Uncharted game. It is going to have the Uncharted feel to it. You've got to have a sort of like, it's when you reel out a trailer for a film of a big blockbuster movie, you're going to show the big explosions and all that kind of stuff because that's the thing that's going to whet people's appetites more so. And so they've already showed off the movement of Nathan Drake. They've already showed off that kind of stuff. So they had to show off something with a bit more bite to it, a bit more explosions, a bit more set piece to it. So
I get why they did it. I didn't understand why everybody suddenly got very excited by it because I just thought that's not why I play Uncharted games at all.
Yeah, you were probably thinking they should have been more excited with the stuff that they showed the first time rather than the stuff that they're showing now.
Exactly.
Because the people who are excited by the stuff that they're showing now are the wrong audience for the Uncharted games.
Exactly. This should have been what they showed first. Like, never mind hanging on the rocks and climbing around and showing the combat. That should have been at E3. And then this trailer should have been the first thing you saw. Show something that's big and brash out the gate and then concentrate on why it's so great.
Yeah.
Hey, earlier we were talking about how Rare are making proper games again.
Yeah.
Do you remember when they made Night Law on the Spectrum?
Yes.
Why has nobody ever used that game mechanic again? Where your transformation between human and werewolf is controlled by the game's time phases and not by you. And you have to make sure that you're out of a particular zone that'll be dangerous to you when you turn into a werewolf.
Skyrim did it with the sort of the you could get the curse thing, couldn't you? That would turn you into a beast on certain times.
Yeah, but it's kind of a side questy thing. I'm thinking it just seems to be a very obvious and major gameplay hook that you could hang a whole project on.
Yeah. Well, with the Rare collection, maybe that will start people thinking, oh, this could be updated nicely. You never know.
It gets used in tabletop, and more so recently with apps alongside things like XCOM has a timer on it, and Space Alert games and stuff like that.
Yeah, that was it for Sony's press conference. Anything I missed?
No, just underwhelming nature.
Yeah, then on to Nintendo. Nintendo didn't do a press conference. They did pretty much a direct. And it was a 45-minute episode of The Muppets with a few games in it. That's all it was. And a few games that only one looked anything interesting.
Let's see. Well, let's see. There was Star Fox.
Yeah. Zelda. Metroid.
Star Fox is actually a reboot of Star Glider, which is also by Rare.
But with Star Fox, what amazed me is they didn't mention that Platinum Games were working on it. Everybody else was like, yeah, Platinum Games is working on Transformers, Platinum Games is working on a new Neo game, and then when Star Fox comes along, Nintendo don't just go, hey, you know Platinum Games, that really good company, they're helping us make this work. Like, that's the first thing I would have said. But no.
I think it might have just been Platinum Games going, please don't mention our name on this game because it just looks a bit bad, to be honest. Because
it looks like the N64 game, doesn't it?
Yeah, I like the Star Fox games.
Deliberate.
What do you think is the most Platinum Games game in the world? Because there's so much to choose from. You've got Vanquish, in which there's a spaceship battle in which spaceships are coming out of spaceships inside a spaceship. And then you've got Bayonetta, and frankly, enough said. And then you've got Metal Gear Rising, which is a game that has a fight scene with a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, The Secret of the Ooze, Vanilla Ice reference in it. I mean, you're just spoilt for choice, really. They're the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah. And they're now the busiest studio in the world by the look of it. More projects than Telltale Games.
Yeah, it's just it was Nintendo's because they showed Fire Emblem Fables as well, a new Bowser and Donkey Kong amiibo for the new Skylanders game. They wheeled out Atlas to show off their new very weird, strange game called FE, which I hadn't a clue what the hell was going on there.
What was the name of that game which was Pokemon but with a watch? That Studio 5 are bringing out, or Level 5 rather. I can't remember what that was called.
Yoki Watch.
Yoki Watch. Yeah, Yoki Watch. Got to catch them all. No, you can't say that bit. Oh, okay. What's the concept? Well, you've got a watch that can capture monsters, and then you can use them to fight other monsters in a combat situation. So, no, not like Pokemon. It just astonished me that they thought, yeah, you know what the world needs is another Pokemon game.
The first time I ever went to the Tokyo Game Show, Atlas drove an ice cream van into the building.
As in through the wall, like the Kool-Aid man?
No, through an entrance. But they just parked an ice cream van in the dealers area to sell their merchandise and stuff from. It was an Atlas ice cream van. It was awesome. Everybody else just had like a stall to sell their T-shirts and vinyl models off of. And Atlas had an ice cream van.
They should have just done that with the Nintendo Direct, and that probably would have made it much more interesting than it was.
You keep
riffing on Nintendo for being boring, but we've still got the Squaresoft conference to get through.
Yeah, well, they showed off Animal Crossing stuff with Animal Crossing Happy Home Design, which I nearly vomited onto my TV when I watched that stuff. And then, to make it even worse, they showed off the most boring board game ever. Who would have thought that they can make Mario Party look like the epic game that it might look compared to Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival?
I never thought they could make me hate Mario Crossing more. But then they put everyone on the same space, and you have to throw the dice as a party. That's just the most awful, politically correct, we can't give children scores because it will make the ones who get lower scores feel left out thing I've ever seen. It's just... how did we become such a generation of ketchup refrigerating dicks?
Yep. A new Paper Mario game for the 3DS called Mario and Luigi Paper Jam Brothers.
I like the look of that. I will be honest.
Yes, so do I.
I think that looks very
reserving
good.
I'm reserving judgment because some of the Mario RPGs are spectacular and genuinely self-aware and funny, and some of them are just dross. So we'll have to see with that one.
Mario Tennis for the Wii U. Looked like Mario Tennis.
Looks like Mario Tennis. Looks like Mario Tennis, doesn't it, Bouncy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Mario Tennis also looks like that as well.
Yeah, I think we've decided that it looks like Mario Tennis. Let's move on.
Especially a bit Mario Amiibo coming out on the 11th of September for Super Mario Maker, which they had changed the name to Super Mario Maker from Mario Maker.
Yeah, and it comes with it's slightly larger than a regular amiibo to reflect the slightly larger Mario in the game, apparently, which I thought was quite nice. There's no scale to these figures at all, but we're making this one slightly bigger than all the other ones because. And the box art for Super Mario Maker is gorgeous. I implore you to go and search it out. There's a little book and the game case, and it all goes inside a nice cardboard box, which matches the red Wii box that they did for the Mario collection, which had like the old games on. But this has got Mario with a builder's hat on the front, like dressed as a builder. And I want Mario Builder from now on. I don't want a plumber. I want him to be retconned as a builder because his outfit's better.
Bouncy,
Yeah.
where do Marios come from?
Japan.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and I think probably the best thing at Nintendo's Direct was the new Xenoblade, the trailer for Xenoblade. I thought it looked, decent enough. It would actually woke me up when they showed that because I nearly fell asleep watching the Nintendo stuff. And I love Nintendo. I actually did buy a Wii U, and so I've got a Wii U, and just because I wanted to play things like Bayonetta 2, and when I saw Splatoon, I thought, yeah, that looks an interesting game, and this Xenoblade was the best thing that was there.
I heard that the original had Cockney robots in it.
Okay.
I never played any of Xenoblade. The only thing I know about Xenoblade is I've got the jigsaw for it on Street Pass. That's about as much as I know about it.
The only thing about Xenoblade is that I avoid everything that's Xeno titled, like Xenosaga, because I'm scared that it might be related to Xenogears, which was friggin' awful.
So does that make you xenophobic?
Yes, it does.
I'm scared of Xenomorphs.
Well, who isn't scared of xenomorphs?
Fair point.
Well, it's an interesting way to die.
Yeah, although you're not going to die like that. You know why? Because it ain't happening, man.
Aww. And finally, if you think that Nintendo's press conference couldn't be any more boring, yes, Square Enix decided to throw their hat into it.
I found Square's more interesting than Nintendo's. But admittedly, because it's things that appeal to me directly. But
Yeah, the thing with Square Enix's press conferences, they've got a lot of people over from Japan, so obviously very little English in it, and it is supposed to be an American-centric kind of press conference. The E3 is American-centric. Most of the release dates that we see is all the stuff that's coming out in the US, so you would expect that, and I don't think Square Enix grasped that.
at one point, the translator went missing. There was like a guy talking for like 2 minutes, and there was no translation whatsoever.
I tell you what was
just gave in.
I tell you what was better than the entire thing, and that was the YouTube that Itoi put up of just himself talking about the fact that Mother 1 is now available on the Virtual Console as Earthbound Beginnings. And Itoi's very passionate about his Mother games. He's got a very clear vision of how they should feel. They're meant to have a very, very warm, very nostalgic, slightly fuzzy feel. That's why they're called Mother. And it's that's the driving force behind design decisions like instead of getting cash dropped from monsters, it tots up how much money you've earned from the monsters, and then your dad gives it to you as pocket money, for example. And he's just done a lovely, lovely video about him talking about the release of Earthbound, the Earthbound Zero localized, and at the end he just says "boing," like one of the Mr. Saturns in Earthbound does, which I thought was lovely. Nothing cynical to say about that at all.
Nice. Well, they started off showing Just Cause 3 off, which, it's Just Cause. It's insane. the kind of thing that you would normally expect from the Just Cause game, especially with Just Cause 2, because they're still making mods and stuff like that for that game.
Yeah. The multiplayer mod for the PC was absolutely crazy. Just some of the videos that came out of that with like 60 players all grappling gun helicopters together and then just crashing them into a massive pile. That's
pretty much the gameplay demo for Just Cause 3 as well.
Yeah. It's I was always going to be buying this no matter what. There was never going to be an issue, but the trailer managed to make me even more excited. So that's always a good thing.
Because the chance of being able to fire a grapple hook onto a plane and then onto a car and let them crash into each other, that's obviously going to be really entertaining to see that kind of thing done over and over again. So,
It does mess up the game mechanic a little bit. I think it was Yahtzee who pointed out that surely I think he was talking about Mercenaries 2 at the time, in a game where you're meant to keep the action controlled and maintain control of the battlefield. When you set off an alert and you hear like hundreds of troops on the horizon coming to kill you, and instead of thinking, "Oh no, I've buggered up," you think, "Great, I can nick more helicopters and tanks."
Yeah,
you're saying that like it's a bad thing.
I know, but it's at the very least something's gone wrong with the design document there. Happily wrong.
And then they just reeled out trailers for games that we've seen in previous press conferences. They showed the exact same trailers for the Final Fantasy VII Remake, for World of Final Fantasy, and Hitman. So it was just used stuff that we already saw.
More detail on the gameplay in Hitman, and basically I get the impression the main game is going to be fairly short, and it's going to rely more on the content generated by players. There's more in the PC conference this came through more than anything else. It seems to be like your main game is going to be take out that fashion designer, but the purpose of the game is the multiplayer with people designing contracts. There's going to be once-off global contracts, so everyone in the world will have 24 hours to try and get in on this one contract. And once it's gone, it's gone. But it's a lot in-depth.
So what? Basically, I mean that doesn't really add anything more to it than Destiny's daily missions.
Yeah, they did say that the DLC that they're releasing for it as well is going to be free, so it's fully like year-round kind of content which they're releasing for it. So it's once you've paid your $60, or in this case for us about £55, that's it. You get any other content that they make for the game, which is probably a lie because they will probably create something else where they'll want more money from people. It is going to be free, so at least they're doing that. They showed off Kingdom Hearts Unchained Key, which and Kingdom Hearts 3, which will tie into that. New Star Ocean game.
They didn't really announce it, did they? They announced that it was in development. Oh, what? Like you were intending never to make another game in your biggest cash cow franchise again?
Yeah.
That's the thing about Squaresoft. They love announcing that they will be announcing things.
Yeah, they love that, and they brought Platinum Games out again. Platinum Games must be the busiest company in gaming because they're working on a sequel to Nier.
Yeah, and
they're like the Del Toro of the game industry.
Pretty much.
There's just no way they've got time to do all this.
What I liked was having a Japanese man dressed as a moon standing there and shuffling around with no peripheral vision whatsoever while somebody else dubs over the top of him what it is that he's saying.
Oh, yeah. Somebody at Squaresoft came out dressed as a Slendy Man and everyone thought it was Hideo Kojima.
So it was just... Yeah, did anybody play Nier?
Nope.
I got close to it. I own it, but I've never played it.
It went into my disc tray. The disc tray closed. Something came up on the screen, and then I forgot to press start, and that was it.
That's commitment to a cause, that is.
Yeah, that's how far I got with Nier. So I was looking at it, and when they were talking about it, I remember that game. I do remember the game somehow, when it must have just been the title screen that I remember. So that's about it. So I can't say if I'm interested to see this game or not, but It was sort of like what Square Enix's stuff was. It was just stuff that, yeah, some of it I might play, the rest of it couldn't be bothered about.
That seems reasonable there.
The thing, going back to people getting it but just not doing anything about it, half an hour in, Square Enix started riffing on themselves for how much they were boring everybody. You know, you don't get to make self-aware jokes if you're carrying on doing it anyway. Yeah. You can't bore the living balls off everybody for half an hour and then make a joke about how protracted your conference is. You don't have that right.
And what I find funny about Square Enix's conference, right at the end, they all stood in a line like they were at a school panto or something like that and took a bow. Just let's clap them and let's just take a bow.
Just clap if it'll get rid of them.
Yeah, there's more to do with their kind of culture.
Yeah, but it did feel more like a school pantomime rather than a press conference, and it was in like the smallest of room, like E3 only just began. It was right back to when the first E3 happened, and you just got the guy coming up from Sony saying $299 after $399 was announced for the price of the new Sega console. So it was just it was interesting to see it like that. And after that, there was the PC conference, wasn't it? Which was today, yesterday.
It was last night. On the listing the IGN put up, it said starting at 1 o'clock, and then it turned out, like 1 a.m., then it turned out the doors were open at 1 a.m., the conference was starting at 2 a.m., so I ended up going to bed at 5 a.m. again.
But you know the stuff that came out of that one. I didn't write anything down to do with PC stuff.
Main things, Microsoft Killer Instinct is coming to the PC, which seemed to be big news for some people. Most of the games you saw at Microsoft's thing are also going to be on the PC, eventually in one shape or another. Arma 3 debuted their main terrain. Now, Arma 2, basically, DayZ was a mod from Arma 2, but it's basically 100 square miles of tropical islands with an archipelago.
Anyone fancy a pint?
Yeah. But what they're looking forward to is actually seeing what modders are going to do with it, because, like as before, a lot of successful modders happened from the second one. So that's probably it. AMD came out. They showed a lot of technology. They showed a dual-core Fiji board just to prove it could be. They had a 16 teraflop gaming rig. Basically, every now and again, AMD will come out and kind of, here's a message from our sponsors sort of style, and go, look at this board. They launched 9 new boards.
Did you just say teraflop?
Teraflop. 16 teraflop, yes.
That's an upsetting word.
Yes, it is. I don't know if there's any better way of putting it, but...
Is that what somebody who's a member of ISIS does when they unzip their fly?
I don't know. Ask Dr. Hamhock. He ran off to join them rather than doing this show.
But, there was a lot of... If you're a PC gamer, there was some things you may have been interested in. I'm not really a PC gamer. It's like Hearthstone as far as I go. But, basically AMD have a lot of shiny things, and most of the things you saw at the Microsoft conference are also going to be on PC. There was more in-depth on Ion and Hitman. But there was nothing really that stood out. The main thing was the way they did it was basically more a talk show.
Yeah.
Where the guys literally came out, sat down on a couch, chatted for a few minutes about the game, so you got a bit more details. And it wasn't like the other conferences where the guy comes out and he's got the pre-prepared speech when he's talking to them. They come out, they do a little piece, show the trailer, and then they sit down and have a chat about it. Which is where we got things like the Ion's creator's favorite bug and things like that. So it was a much calmer, gentle way, kind of winding down out of it. The only problem being the time it was on here, I was gradually falling asleep as I went through. But
did they show anything off to do with Soma?
Yes, they showed Soma. They showed some gameplay from Soma. It's a dark and scary game, lots of flickering lights and claustrophobic atmosphere.
Because I'm interested in Soma because it's from the people who made Amnesia. and I really liked Amnesia. It's an interesting game, and so Soma looks very much like it. I've seen a gameplay trailer of it. They released it about a week and a half ago. It's coming out on PlayStation 4 as well. But yeah, I think it looks pretty interesting.
How much is WW15 on the PC at the moment? Isn't it in the Steam sale?
If it is, it'll be about £7.50, I would imagine. Going by that Steam sale reckonings.
I'm just asking because PC has come up, and I think WW15 is still something like 80 quid for the game and the season pass on PlayStation 4 and the console stores. It's not a good situation.
Lovely.
Oh,
well, that
the one announcement that kind of took me aback was, and it was literally pitched like this from the makers of Elite and Elite Dangerous, and then it cut to a trailer for Planet Coaster Simulation Evolved.
Okay.
There's such a weird disconnect. Tacoma, that was another thing that came up as well, which is basically Gone Home. Guys who made Gone Home. Basically the same game on a space station.
Yeah, I saw that on one of the other kind of features. That looked very good. I like the idea of sort of seeing holographic representations of things as well that had happened. I quite like that. So yeah, it's got a lot of potential. It does seem to be like one of the themes of the show was it's this game in space. So, yeah. I can deal with that though. Gone Home was great, and Gone Home in space sounds really good. Certainly better than Leprechaun in space, or Jason in space, or...
Oh, sod off. Jason in space was awesome.
Critters 4, that wasn't awesome. That was terrible.
I haven't seen past the second one. But I'll tell you what is good in space. I've just been Googling around out of sheer boredom, and I've found out that Elite the Musical is still up on the internet. Ian Bell, his brother Aidan, wrote an electro-rock musical of Elite in 1989, and it's still up on Ian Bell's old clarinet page. iancgbell.clara.net/elite/musical if you want to go and download the MP3s.
Speaking of weird musicals, do you know what I found out existed this week?
Oh, go on.
Spartacus, the ballet. And I thought, who watches Spartacus and immediately thinks, you know what this needs? It needs a ballet adaptation. And that happened in 1967, which means in some respects it predates the popularity of Spartacus and definitely not inspired by Blood on the Sand.
It doesn't have Peter Mensah in it then. The guy that says, "This is madness!" in 300.
No, it doesn't have him in there at all.
And it doesn't have Manu Bennett, who's an Uruk Hai in The Hobbit.
No, just ballet people.
Other thing of interest was Valkyrie, CCP's VR space shooter.
It was a nice segue into ballet and opera and stuff. Straight in with Valkyrie.
Yeah, I was just about to talk about the little Scottish guy from The Mummy and Four Weddings doing certain things to Xena Warrior Princess. But go on, yours is more interesting.
Did you see any of... Basically, CCP have done a full VR space shooter called Valkyrie, which is, while it's similar to things in EVE, it's actually going to be separate from that game universe entirely. Completely standalone product.
I would like to see a new good space shooter, but the last time somebody recommended one to me and said, "Oh yeah, you got to get this. It's going to be as good as Wing Commander," that was Starlight Inception on the Vita. I don't just want my 10 quid back for that. I want my time back.
Yeah, this actually does. What does it remind me of? Kind of like Rogue Squadron, except much more frantic.
Ooh.
But that's like my term of reference for all space shooty games, and it's kind of also why I'm fed up with Destinies, because you have all these shiny ships you can buy, but you never actually get to go out and fight with them.
Yes, there's not a hell of a lot of space in it for a space game, is there?
Yeah, so I'm waiting for the expansion to announce that before I really start taking the game seriously again. Let's see, what else was there? There was Pillars of Eternity expansion called The White March. If anybody's been playing the RPG, or
Nope. I really want to play it, but I can't run it. So it's on my list of things to do in 3 years' time when I have a machine that's capable. I should buy it. It will go in my Steam library. I've got 600 games in my Steam library now, and I can play about 8 of them.
You're one of these people who, like, the amount of game time you need exceeds the average life expectancy.
Yeah, there's a website called Steam Life, I think it is, and you put in your Steam details, and it tells you exactly how many hours it will take you to complete each and every game in your collection.
I've seen that.
And then draws a comparison, and mine says I could go to Mars and back twice. And I thought, if I had the choice between going to Mars and back twice or just playing all these games, I'd probably not play them and just go to Mars. That seems more interesting.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah.
Twice.
Twice.
Yeah, twice.
Guild Wars 2 and Heart of Thorns expansion. They have an interesting mechanic, basically, for guilds. Because the whole thing about guilds, obviously, but they basically set up maps where your guild can basically go and drive off the current AI occupants of the map and turn it into a guild hall.
Right.
You start building buildings, and from those buildings you can make tools. So when you go into battle, like if you take a castle, you can call in zeppelins from your guild hall to help you protect it during the game and things like that. It seemed a very nice mechanic. I'm not a Guild Wars player, so...
No, I know a few people who really are, and I think that's going to be very much welcomed, going by the conversations we've had, about just it feeling a little bit stale now and waiting for this next big thing. They said there's something about this whole mechanic was coming, so yeah, I'll be interested to see that. Yeah, I always go around his house and he shows me. Normally I end up in a fight with a giant, and then he tells me to run away, and I keep just standing by its legs punching it, and he keeps getting annoyed with me because I keep dying. But you know, you do with giants.
Just looking at a map of the solar system, Venus is about the same distance away from Earth as Mars is. If you went to Venus twice instead, you could do a couple of Vault of Glass.
Oh.
I could, but then I wouldn't be able to buy any new chocolate. I'd just be able to buy a female razor from Gillette.
Yeah, nice tangent again. Lovely.
Actually, I got a nice one for you. There was a game in development called Take on Mars. Anybody heard of that?
Is this the new Liam Neeson game?
No, there's... No.
Have Aha done the soundtrack?
It's basically you go to Mars. It's basically a survival mode, is what they announced at the PC Gamer Conference. Basically, you have a drone, you land on Mars, and basically you're trying to build a settlement and not die.
So do better than NASA then.
Yes, basically. With NASA's equipment.
Well, it sounds good as an announcement, but I think it'll be gone in a week or two.
I bet they probably wanted to call it Curiosity, but Peter Molyneux had already copyrighted that one.
Yeah.
The only other weird they did more on Beyond Eyes, and they did some gameplay trailer, which is really nice and really soft thing, and they went straight from that into Dirty Bomb, which is
the splash damage, isn't it? That one.
Yeah, it's hardcore. It's like the trailer is just full of bad language, and it was just such a disconnect because you went from the nice kind of gentle Beyond Eyes thing, and they're saying, boom, dirty bombs. That's like suit up and go kill us, some, etc., etc.
Yeah,
it was just a weird. Now it looks like a fun kind of shooter, but definitely not safe for work kind of thing. But
well, if you're playing shooters at work,
Sony's last year.
I think so. Yes.
Because it was sort of like a sweary kind of, looked a little bit like Mad World in a way kind of game.
It's got that vibe to it. It's now going to be free to play on PC only now. And they're doing a thing you can register on, I think it's on GameSpot, but you can get like an exclusive character if you drop a email address on their website. But yeah, Splash Damage have made Brink, which is a fantastic multiplayer shooter, totally underrated. And they did the enemy territory games as well, Wolfenstein and stuff like that. So they've got form. I'll be interested to see how this pans out, because I think there is room in the market for like a sweary rival to Team Fortress. But I don't know if it's going to have the same appeal unless it can find a really good platform.
I hated Brink. I've only actually ever met two people who like it. One is Bouncy and the other is Jim Sterling.
Oh, for God's sake, I hate Brink. I want to retract my status. No, I don't. I like it a lot.
Did you see Jim? Jim said. Did you see Peter Molyneux at the PC conference?
No.
Yeah. He wasn't actually in there. He was just standing outside with a big bag of Barrett's fruit salad sweets, and he was just unwrapping them one at a time and eating them and throwing the wrappers on the floor. There was a bin right there, and he was just throwing the wrappers on the floor. And anytime somebody caught his eye in a disapproving way, he would say, "This is pretty poor behaviour. I regret doing this. I should stop doing it now," and then just carrying on doing it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, you see. What will happen is those people who looked at him with derisory eyes suddenly realise there's another story they can tell to try and get clicks onto their website and go and moan at that instead, and then keep buying his product because he generally makes great product. Which is funny, that, isn't it?
Was that about it at the PC stuff?
Yeah, the only other thing was Blizzard came out. They talked a bit about the Eternal Conflict expansion for Heroes of Storm, where they're bringing the world of Diablo into their free-to-play MOBA. And they also talked about StarCraft 2. There's a kind of mini expansion called Whispers of Oblivion, which is going to be part of the Legacy of the Void thing, but everyone will be able to download the Whispers of Oblivion. It's going to bring a couple of story arcs for main characters to an end. So they talked a bit about that. So the Whispers of Oblivion bit is going to be free, but if you want Legacy of Void, you have to pre-order, etc., etc. I don't know. I'd actually forgotten about StarCraft 2, in all honesty.
That was a while ago, wasn't it? That came out because they had was it Eye of the Swarm or Heart of the Swarm or something expansion a couple of years ago as well. Yeah. And then nothing really. But
Legacy of Void came up about 7 months ago.
Right.
And it's like now it's like, oh, it's going to happen. Here's a free thing to keep you going while you're waiting for it to still happen.
Yeah, it's weird because I mean, obviously that has massive following in Korea among anywhere else. So I guess that's never really going to go away, is it? But it's bizarre, very bizarre.
Mother flippers act like they forgot about Tassadar.
And by the sounds of it, that was it.
That was it.
E3.
That was pretty much it. Was it?
Yeah.
E3 this year, quick thoughts, because we have gone past 3 hours now, even though I was intending this just to be 2 hours. But yeah, quick thoughts on E3. One
it was
by
all
one.
Right. Can we do, before we go, what we wished we'd seen there announced that didn't get announced?
I wanted to see the NX.
No, I knew that wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, no, that's not what the question was. The question is what we wished we'd see, and I want to see that. I want to know what that is now.
I wish we had seen a Jurassic Park game that felt as special as watching Jurassic Park. And it shouldn't be difficult to do. Just something that is uniquely Jurassic Park that sends you away instead of thinking, oh, I've played exactly the same video game as every other video game, only with dinosaurs on it. And you could do like Evolve, only with dinosaurs. That would be good. Or you could or you could do Prison Architect. Imagine a multiplayer Prison Architect in which you had to work together to run the park. Only one of them was the fat bloke from Third Rock from the Sun, and you had to figure out which one of you was the saboteur. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Or a Monster Hunter style game where you're all running along the side of the T-Rex, shooting tiny little tranquilizer darts into it because you get better rewards from the company if you take it in alive rather than killing it.
See, I'd like to see a Dino Crisis update, but with Jurassic Park license.
Yeah, there are just so many ideas that you can pull off the top of your head that would make a brilliant Jurassic Park game. And send you away thinking, oh, I've been to Jurassic Park, I have. And they've never managed it. So that's mine.
For me, Beyond Good and Evil 2. I would have been nice to see.
Yeah, definitely.
And I would have liked them to do a sort, even though I hate remakes and reimagining and stuff like that, I would have liked to see a new Dead Space, but going back to the original feel of Dead Space. Rather than Dead Space 3. Just going back to the single player, stuck in a ship, very much like the feel of the last Alien game, Alien Isolation. But obviously not just one necromorph. You've got to have more than one necromorph going around. So something like that for me.
Yeah. They need to take it back to straight hip-hop and start it from scratch.
Yep, and Jerry, yours. What would you
When
like
I
to
got
see?
Shenmue 3, did we talk about Deus Ex Mankind Divided?
No, no.
I didn't.
Neither did I.
Right. That looked really good. The results of the last game pushing the augmented into kind of an apartheid state. I think that actually did look like it's going to be fun. But I got Shenmue 3, which was the game it's been on my list for a very long time. So what else would I have liked besides the obvious Half-Life 3? This leaves me kind of stuck.
Apartheid would be a good game hook for a multiplayer game, in which you had like one privileged class of characters and one underclass. One side trying to retain control, and the other side trying to secretly rebel. That could work.
Yeah, cool. I think there's a couple of board games that run along that line.
Escape from Colditz.
Escape from Colditz. That would make a great game. That did make a great game, I think.
Do or Die.
So, your choice. You only allowed to choose one game out of all the games that were shown off as your game of show kind of thing. Which one would it be? Before we disappear.
Didn't actually watch the Dark Souls 3 reveal. It will probably be that if I had watched it, but I'm kind of like...
Wasn't much reveal. Basically, the countryside stood up and turned out to be a giant suit of armour. That was pretty much it.
Yeah.
That is the best description I've ever heard of a thing. I watched it, I didn't even think to describe it. The countryside stood up. But that is exactly what happened.
Cuphead, I think, from the ones I saw. Cuphead or Guardian.
Fancy?
Have we lost him again?
I don't know. Jerry, your choice.
Okay, I'll have to... Let's see. Well, Shenmue 3, but that's not really a game that's out yet. Hitman. That's or Just Cause 3.
For me, I would say either Unravel or Ghost Recon Wildlands. They were the two games that... Unravel, because it was that beautiful indie game that I just love that kind of thing. And Wildlands, because the fact that it is the expansive open world, sort of like do whatever you want kind of game where you can just get a couple of mates in there and just have a blast. So that for me, it was those two games that stood out of all the rest of them.
Mm.
Captain Toad Treasure Tracker versus Tingle DX. That's not a thing. I've just made that up.
Yeah, that would be weird. Mine was Ghost Recon.
Yeah, okay, then. So,
just yeah.
Just because it's Ghost Recon, it looks awesome.
Well, it was because I've played Ghost Recon games and I've liked Ghost Recon games, but I've never felt like it was a Ghost Recon game that was made for me. I always felt I had to shape myself around how that game was supposed to be played. But now it's a Ghost Recon game where I can literally run in and throw grenades, and that's a viable strategy. And I can also parachute out of the sky, come through a skylight, stab everyone in the face, steal their drugs, and drive it off a cliff. And that's a viable strategy. And that's what I want from a game. So, yeah, it surprised me. There's lots of games like Fallout 4 I'm dying to play, but I knew I would. It didn't surprise me, but Ghost Recon absolutely pulled the carpet out from under me, and I fell on my big flabby rear.
On your bumballs. And that was my game of the show, Bumballs.
Awesome. And that was E3.
It was a real
E3. Yeah.
It was a real crazy show where anything could go.
Yep, that was E3 2015. Enjoyable, but some of the press conferences went on a bit too long, a bit much like this thing. It's just lots of rambling, again, a bit much like this thing. And so, yeah, it wasn't as, I think, good as last year, but there was enough there to entertain.
I mean, I just wish that next year we have like quarterly events around the world instead of one massive big. Everyone get your digital willies out and waggle them in the crowd, and because I don't think that's good for gaming to have like this one big thing where they're announcing things a year and a half, 2 years ahead of time. with no real footage to show, but to say this game's we're going to show you something we're working on, and then show you a bit of an animation for something that's going to be 2 years away. I don't want that. I want quarterly things that actually show us what's coming out for the next 6 months. That would be great, and it'd be better for games.
Yoshi's Willy World. I don't want to see what the amiibo looks like.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Nice way to end things there. And so, before we disappear, thanks for joining us, you three. Throw out your Twitter handles and stuff like that for where people can actually get you. So, Bouncy, you first before you disappear.
I'm at Bouncy Ball with an H after the second B.
And indeed, you can listen to his show at lolacourse.co.uk, I think. Or is it lolacourse.wordpress now?
It's lolacourse.co.uk, but that then redirects you to the WordPress.
I see. Well, I'm at The Voice of Sex on Twitter. And you can also find me on YouTube at Sex Talks About Apps.
I'm at Legendary on Twitter, and you can find my scribblings on followingthenerd.com.
Yeah, and everybody knows where I'm situated at mondaymovieshow.co.uk, Twitter at Cryptic Tadpole, and everywhere else. I'm also part of Following the Nerd, but I don't do very much on the site. So just their box office top 10 and take part in their show.
Don't you have like the first movie top 10 in the UK every week?
Sort of. I get the data for it on a Tuesday. I'm not allowed to put it up on the website until the Wednesday. So,
but it's still the first place to hear that chart. So,
yeah.
Don't sell yourself short, man.
No, that's me though. But yeah, Monday Movie Show will be back on Monday as a standard ordinary movie show. Back to the usual grind that we normally do. Might do another video game show somewhere down the line. Gamescom, maybe. Maybe we might just do something like that. But it's interesting to talk about video games for a little while instead of yabbering on about movies.
Perhaps we could do a crossover show where we run the whole gamut of Uwe Boll's video game related work.
Yeah, and just tell people to fuck off right at the end of it.
Oh,
hello, explicit tag.
Yeah, right
we
at the end.
We managed a whole show without that, and then you did it.
I know, but it just feels so nice to actually do that on my own show, considering for the 4 years I've not been able to say one single swear word.
Well, that's not a real reason. I've never, while recorded a podcast, poured a can of Coke down my underpants, but I'm not going to suddenly start doing it. It would disappoint my mother. She'd be very disappointed in me. She listens to every podcast I do, and now I've got to warn her that this one's got a swear word in it. Oh, Stuart.
I know. Me and my brilliant Macam tongue. So, play out with an outro, and so that's it from us. So, goodbye.